the display, but just at least the wooden pieces that are in the ground to hold everything in place. So I'm gonna try to get all that done at least in the next week or two to start cut the grass down to nothing and then put that in place so I can put it in at a later time.
Right. Yeah, I've got I just finished up most of my ground stuff wiring. I don't have my pixel controller under the tree, but I've got it all wired up, and I've got the roof wired up, and I've got to run some power injection up there, and then the peaks. I've got a lift coming Saturday and Sunday for the neighborhood, so I'll use that in the morning and get the peaks done. So I'm without my knees knocking on a ladder.
Oh, lift is nice.
Yeah, I mean, by the time it's all said and done with everybody that uses it, it's like $30. It's well worth $30.
Well, I guess it depends upon how much time you have to use it.
Yeah, it's usually a couple of hours, because I'll get started, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and run up there and get it done. I'll be done by 9, 10 because everything's on. I've got everything attached to PVC, and all I have to do is I've got some little shim connectors that I use to hook it into the roof line, and everything's already connected. All I gotta do is go up and slide the little shims underneath the shingles, and that's it. That doesn't take very long at all.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing that you're in warm weather.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to getting mine together. I redid I think I told you about my palm tree that I have from last year. It's like I'm rewiring it to use regular bullet pixels with the strips from Holiday Coral. So I've got that about 85% done. I was working on that last night for a couple of hours so that I don't have to worry about the weather.
Yeah, the problem I'm having is I used the Technicolor version 2s last year, and I switched over to pixel bulbs this year on the roof, and the spacing is just a little different. It's kind of like shifted everything. Every 100 pixels, I get an additional 5 foot, about a 12-foot shift in where my power injection was. So dealing with that.
Well, I'm having really good luck running 16 gauge wire parallel with the pixels. I bought new pixels and just we're installing them, and it's like 22 gauge wire almost, which is just horrible. It's like I can just see the voltage drop on them.
Yeah.
And I'm going 5 volts. So
yeah, you're 5 volts, so you're extra got an extra special careful.
Yeah. I bought the power supplies and everything for 5 volts, and so the difference in cost. Next year I'll probably go and add some 12 volt stuff to it. But right now it's like I have the power supplies and everything, and it's just a matter of me going out and buying, a couple of spools, and for around 12 cents a foot for speaker wire, it's relatively cheap. It's cheaper than me going out and buying all new pixels. I was looking online trying to find some of that seed for those pixel grids, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I'd like some of that myself.
Yeah. One thing I saw in a video, I forget who posted it, of having the arches on their roof. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm going to try to imitate that with 3 arches. except I'm not putting it on the roof. I'm going to go, now I have a ranch style house, so I'm going to go and use 10-foot pieces of electrical conduit and bring the arches up to just roof level, and I'll have them hanging there, and it'll look like they're on the roof, but they'll really be right in front of the roof.
Right.
You know, and that way it's easy to take down, because it's like, well, in January when I take them down, I'm going to probably have a foot or a foot and a half of snow sitting on the roof, and I'm not climbing up there.
Right.
This way I could just, I'll put a few 1x2s in the ground, and then I'll just screw the conduit into that, and then the arches will be into that. And, you know, a lot of people do like Matt Johnson, and they buy, I forget what that kind of arch material is called, kind of translucent.
Oh, that PEX. Well, it's not PEX. It's
HDPE from
HDPE.
McMaster
Yeah,
Carr.
HDPE.
Well, you know, I went out and, being the cheap that I am, just bought regular 1.5-inch PVC pipe and bent it, and then I'm just putting a strip within silicone over the top of it, and it looks good enough. You know, it doesn't look as good as that other stuff, but you can't buy that stuff very easily.
Yeah, you kind of have to go in with somebody and get it, because it comes on a truck, and you kind of have to go in with somebody and buy, a whole roll of it.
And no one's near me that's going to buy it, so.
Yeah, we don't have the Menards around here.
Yeah. Well, there's some Menards here, but I don't think they sell that.
I think they do. I want to say that's where some of them are getting it from. Maybe I might be wrong on that.
Well, the PVC that I'm using for each arch, they're already made from last year. So I have 3 of them that are already arched and everything. So it cost me $0.
Yeah, I'm for my arches, I continue to use my GEC icicles on a zip time on the white PVC.
That works too, you know.
Yeah. Same effect. It's not as diffused as the arches everybody's doing with that HDPE, but it's something I'll probably do next year. I've got a bunch of 12 millimeter bullet nose that are sitting in a box I'm not even using.
Well, where my arches are going to be, it's going to be about 85 feet off the road.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be able to tell.
You're not going to notice. You want to have that additional brightness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to what it's going to look like.
I tried to ask David on the forums today what the reason was those version 1 alpha picks couldn't have a firmware update. And he never responded back.
Yeah,
it's got to be. I'm like it's got to be a firmware thing. It would be hard for me to. Maybe it's just a little different, and he doesn't want to update the firmware on the version 1s.
I think it had something to do with he went on the cheap and it didn't have enough memory.
Oh, no, that could be.
You know,
yeah, well, that could be. I mean, because he can only put so much.
After seeing the Falcon, I'm really PO'd about buying it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like I own the J1 Sys ECG P2, and I own a 682 and a 6804 from Sandevice, and I mean, it does what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't do as much as the Falcon, but all it would take for those 2 boards is a update to the firmware and an update on the front end, if it has enough memory, which I don't know if it does.
Right, and if I would have already had the controller in my mitts right now, I would have bought it, but I'm thinking that it probably would have been the end of next week by the time Dave Pitts said he was going to be shipping the stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out if he was talking about the time before the last time or if it was this last order that he was talking about. I couldn't remember how many orders there were.
He made it sound like what was going to ship was going to be probably late this week.
Yeah, I think he said tomorrow.
Okay, well, that would be late this week, Thursday.
Go ahead, Al. You got a question?
Mike, testing 1, 2.
Yep, we got you.
You do?
Yep.
Oh, God forgive me. Thank you.
So yeah, I'm hoping I'm in this because I got in on that last order for it, and I'm hoping I'm in the group that gets sent out at the end of the week because I'm looking to start goofing around with it.
Yeah, I saw the software and everything, and I said, I'm going to have to. There's going to be a little learning curve to it, and it's like if I want to have it up and running in 2 weeks, I can't have a controller a week before I want to have stuff up and running.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Have you had a 682 before? I'm new to the Falcon as well. It took about 10 minutes.
Yeah. He's got an Alpha Pix though, so it's a little different. Well, not too much. It's not that different, but
The cool thing I found on the Falcon was I kind of thought it was overkill to have that LCD screen in there, but I was troubleshooting something where I was the new DMX effect. And so with Dave on the phone, he had me bring up a Universe 3 I was sending the data to. And as I moved the sliders and Nutcracker, I could see the data being received on the right on the LCD, and it matched the slider right in real time.
Yeah, he showed that in that demo on the 28th of last week before last, and it was I was already going to buy one, but I was chomping to get one then because it's going to cut out some of my dongles and stuff for my lure and Renard stuff.
Oh yeah, especially with the 4DMX, the RS.
Yeah,
built in.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get it. I got some supper waiting for me, so I'm just going to step away for a few minutes and grab a plate.
All right. Anybody working on anything interesting right now? I see Tony's working on his video.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, I got a question. I don't know if you would know or not. I'm trying to get a file share between my show computer and my development computer, but I can't get this thing to work. Are you familiar with NetBIOS and SMB shares and that kind of stuff?
So what's your show computer? Is it an XP or is it an old system or what?
Yeah, it's an old XP system.
And what's your sequencing system? Windows 7?
Yeah. So as far as I know, from what I'm researching, it's supposed to be, TCP 137 and 139, or is that UDP, one of those, and then 445. And I've got all four of those ports forwarded through the firewall between the two machines.
What are you trying to do? Just like share folders so you can drag and drop over? Or
Yep.
You should be able to share it on the network. You just got to make sure both are on the same. On the same network. That's the main thing.
Well, there's a firewall between them is the deal. I've separated my show network from my main network, so there's a router and firewall between them. But everything else is working. I can remote into the computer. I've got that port forwarded. I've got other ports that are forwarding through just fine. But for some reason, the sharing is not going through there.
Well, you try to drag a file over and it denies you, tells you can't write it?
Not even that. I can't even browse to share or access to share even directly, even with IP address. Some people are saying that sometimes the NetBIOS doesn't go through right or whatever, but you can still access the share using an IP address, and that's not working.
Can you ping? Can you ping from both sides?
Oh, I'm remoted into the machine. I mean, I can see the machine, desktop, and everything. I just can't get to the dumb thing through a file share.
You can just do Dropbox then.
I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. I just want the easy, quick, easy way.
USB
I should use
sneaking.
Dropbox because that way I got the files backed up. I don't know. It's just frustrating. One of those dumb things. It should be simple right in front of me, and I can't figure it out. On another note, I have worked a good bit more now, finally, in X-Lights, and got a lot of my models finished for most of my stuff, and started playing around with some of the effects, and it is cool what you can do in this thing. It's so easy, to throw an effect across the whole house or whatever is pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot easier. One thing you need to make sure I'm sitting here going through things in my mind that would keep you from being able to look at folders. One thing you need to make sure is your work group is the same. That's one thing that'll keep you from.
Yeah, I think it is, because originally I had it set up originally where I could go. It was all on the same network, and I was sharing it no problem. And then later I started thinking more and more about it. And a lot of people were saying that when you've got a show computer and all your other devices hooked up all together across the network, I didn't want all that traffic on my main network, especially when I'm streaming or doing something like that. So I wanted to keep it separated. So I said, well, hell, I've got an extra router. I'll just, stick it behind a router, and I'll be the WAN, so it can get out to the internet and all that kind of crap. But I only want to forward, certain ports through. So it's been working great. It's just I just can't get file
Can't
shares.
move folders, yeah. That's wild.
And so anyway, I'll figure it out.
I would say when I get some free time, I'll run over there and take a look, but I don't know when that would be. Right now.
We could use TeamViewer. You could remote into it if you really wanted to.
I might do that and take a look at it for you. Can I?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
I'll keep playing with it.
Yeah. If are you going to be home tomorrow? Are you going back to work tomorrow?
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. I'm going back to work tomorrow, but I'll be home tomorrow night.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a call. We'll figure something out.
Sure.
I was going to say, if you were going to be off tomorrow, I'd remote in from work, since I won't be doing nothing anyway.
Why would I be off work tomorrow?
I don't know.
Are you off work tomorrow?
No, I'm not off work tomorrow.
Oh, I was going to say, damn, I didn't get that memo.
Yeah, I wish I was. I've been out all day today running my ground wiring, so I get all that mess out of the way. I'm hoping to be completely done by Saturday evening. That's wishful thinking.
Yeah. Man,
I had to stop and do Chick-fil-A, over the weekend. I had to wire them all up.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Get that going? Is it going, Ned, or is it still
No. I have to get in there early because I got two of them to do, and I ran the string, ran the lights, and I'll drop the lines for them, because that doesn't take very long, and connect them up to the lower controller, sometime next week probably.
Right.
Getting the lights run while nobody's there is the hardest part.
Oh.
So people aren't in your way. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to drop something on somebody or something like that.
So you're doing two of them now?
Yeah. Doing the one out at Monkey Junction now. Well, that's the second one.
Oh, you're doing Monkey Junction and the Oleander?
Yeah, that one's just static though. That's just running lights.
Which one? The Oleander one?
No, the Oleander one's that one's to what I do is I recycle my show from last year to their show.
So that's the animated one. But you're saying the Monkey Junction one's just static?
Yeah, it's just static.
Gotcha. That's cool. I'll have to go back and see it. I don't even know if I've seen it yet. Yeah. I think I did one time, but it's been a while.
Megan wants me to, let one of them go because it stresses me out. But once it's done, it's done. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Takes about a day each one. It takes a full day. I have to get out there at 7 a.m. and wire everything up.
Gotcha.
But the good thing is, after you wire it up once, it kind of goes faster the following years because it's already, you don't have to figure things out. Right.
Is that all AC stuff or any pixels at all in that?
No pixels on any of them.
Yeah.
Not yet. That's if they ever jumped into that, I'd have to drop one of them. I'd really be in for a headache.
Well, you were talking about cycling your show into it. I know you had a lot of pixels last year. I didn't know if you threw a pixel
But
tree in there.
what I do, because I still run 60 some channels of of AC incandescents and LEDs. So what I do whenever whenever I'm sequencing, I have my show at home kind of lined up how I have their layout done. So all I have to do is pull the top 16 channels out off, and that's their show. I mean, it lines up with what they've got. So everything, because I run everything kind of the same way, wherever I run it. It's a method to my madness. I was just telling Roger, hopefully I'll get that during Falcon Saturday or Monday. I can start playing around with it.
That'd be cool. So is your Christmas show like ready to go, or are you still messing with it?
My lights or my sequencing?
Well, I know your lights are in progress, I'm assuming, but your sequencing, you ready to go from that perspective?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm about halfway through on my sequencing. What I've got left is all in X lights. It's all my pixels, so it's not that bad.
Oh, okay.
I've got all my incandescent stuff sequenced already.
You do that in HLS again, or?
Yeah, I did that in HLS. I'm going to drop it as a data layer in X lights.
Okay, you're not going to import it?
No, it's a little easier if you just drag it in as a data layer. Because I'm not going to edit it or anything. It is what it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the full import, so I got everything in Xlights because once you get it in there, things seem to be so much easier to manipulate and all.
Yeah, I'm tempted to try to sequence in Xlights only next year. We'll see what happens. There's some things that are still a little wonky for me in Xlights, as far as the AC side of things. But if I would have played with it a little earlier, I might have, figured all that out. It's with anything though. It's like jumping from lure to LSP or LSP to HLS. I mean, it's just a different way of doing things.
What part of the AC if you don't know my introduction, I'm Steve Jerome. I wrote the Next Lights manual, if you haven't.
Okay.
I'm listening with an open ear on things that we need to add there. And I know I would like to break the manual off into parts and just do a separate manual for the lore user. It seems like everyone who's used X-Lights is a previous lore user, or y'all were at once.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using lore or LSP, they're alike enough in sequencing where, you catch a lot of people.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people come in with the mindset, well, how do you do this in X-Lights? I do this in lore.
Yeah.
And I say, well, here's how you do that. Or I tell them, depending on what it is, forget that. Forget you ever knew that. Forget about twinkle and shimmer.
Right.
Here's what we have. And
yeah. And that was one of the things, when you go onto the lore forums, that they don't understand that. I mean, there's some disconnect between like the DIY side and that side, which, it is what it is. But it's like whenever I went to HLS doesn't have a out of the box shimmer or twinkle. You can create different levels of twinkle and shimmers on the fly. So, you create a custom shimmer and you can use that all the time, or you can do a different type of shimmer, which is basically what X-Lights does. You can customize it. I mean, the more I use X-Lights, the more I like it. It's just a matter of, getting a little more time on it.
Steve, have you used Vixen 3 at all?
I installed it, and I just built a mega tree, and I tried to get an effect on it, and I spent 30 minutes, and I said, forget it.
Because, I've glanced at X-Lights, and I get a little bit into it, and it's like, I'm lost. Now, to me, Vixen seemed like it was real intuitive. So I'm just kind of curious. It's like, well, you wrote up some stuff. It'd be nice to see a little demo of, how do you go through it, from the beginning. I'm not going to do it this year, but you have it'd be nice to kind of see what it would be for possibilities for next year.
Sure. We have a lot of videos. If you haven't found the wiki, there's a lot of how-tos. I think we should do a current video of here's how you start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing because when I started for the very beginning, I was confused, particularly when you started setting up your networks. It was confusing when I started the modeling and the start channel and the from output and having to, correlate that back. So I had to made a chart to say, okay, output, 4, because I used LoRa and DMX, universes. I had to say, okay, well, my universe and output numbers are off by 1, right? So that
Here's where I'm at. I have about 40,000 channels this year, and I don't have any of that done yet. I can do that 10 minutes before the show time because it absolutely does not matter, whatever. So your effects go to models, and the models go to the channels. Change your channels as much as you want. You don't have to set that up ahead of time. So I just say start using it. Forget about don't get caught up in the network. Just give yourself 100,000 channels and start sequencing. And then you figure out later on once your sequences are done, then figure out, all right, my mega tree is going to be on these channels and go on and then just re-render, you're done. It's that easy.
So I know I had trouble with that thought. I know I had heard that before is just go in there and just make a whole bunch of E131 universes, 1 to 100, and boom, there you go, and then start doing stuff. But, when you do a model, you're telling it what the start channel is. Are you just saying everything should start at the same channel? Or how does that –
They need to not overlap so that the output is different, is unique. But where they end up at, if your mega tree wants to start on channel 1,000 versus channel 1, change it and then just re-render the sequence.
Okay, I guess that's where I was kind of getting hung up too, because I wouldn't want to have to go back through all my models and re-update them all. But it sounds like once you figure out where things go, that's what you would do is go in to each model individually and say, okay, you are now at this channel and this output kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you don't even need to set the output because you would just set the start channel and where that lays out sequentially is where the output would be.
Yeah, that seemed to confuse me as well, actually.
So let's say you have a universe. You have 2 controllers, and let's call them their 682s. And on one 682 had one universe, channels 1 through 512. Right. And had universe 2 on the second universe, also channels 1 through 512. In Nutcracker, the channels go sequentially. Those would be the absolute channels. So absolute channel 513 would be on the second one. So if you start your mega tree on 513, guess where you would plug it in? Port 1 on controller 2.
Okay, but there's 2 pieces of information for every model, and that's the start channel and the from output. Is the from output, I couldn't blank that out. So you can leave it at 1, but are you saying with it being...
I never use that. I'm 3 years into Nutcracker. I never use that from output.
Yeah, you don't have to use that output part, David.
Well, yeah, but it's there, and it does say 1, and my output 1 is my LoRa network. It's not my pixels.
Yeah, then you change it to 2.
What's that?
Then you change it to you can leave it at 1. This is Dave Pitts, by the way.
Hey, David.
Hey, you can do what Steve says. If you leave it, what it is first of all, that didn't exist until about 3 months ago. And Dan added that about 3 months ago. So none of us used it until about 3 months ago. It is handy if you come from universe channel numbers, but like Steve was saying, what that does, if you look at the scheme, the way it works, and it works nice if you're doing absolute channel numbers and you're working with controllers that use absolute channel numbers like the Pi and the F16 V2 and other controllers like that. But what it does is typically if you're using absolute, you always set that to 1, and then you just have numbers that keep incrementing all the way up to as big as your sequence is. And in your case, they're incrementing your DMX, which is on output 1. If you looked on the setup page, that would start at channel 1, And then if it's 512 bytes, if it's a DMX universe, then it goes to 512. And then your next E131 output, if you started at like index number 2 or the second one, that's going to be from 513, forward. So you would basically, you'd keep it at 1, and the absolute numbers would still pertain, because you would, for your first pixel model, that's E131, you'd put 513. That would be your start channel if you were skipping over the DMX.
But you can still not use that from output, right?
Well, you are, indirectly you are using it, even though you're not actually clicking it to go to 2. It actually uses it. What it does is it looks up where the output 1 always starts at 1. So, but if it, let's say, if you clicked at the 2, what it does is it looks up where the start address is of 2, and then it basically, whatever you put in for the start channel, it basically it offsets the beginning of whatever output you're on. It finds out what that beginning channel is, and then offsets the start channel, depending on what your start channel is. It adds that much to figure out what the actual absolute channel is.
Right.
So it does that even for number 1. It looks up number 1's start address, which is 1, and then it adds the start channel -1 to it to figure out where the absolute channel is. Now, here's where it's really nice, for people that are universe start channel people, is that in your case, and I'm speaking to Al or David. Who are we talking?
David, I guess.
Yeah, David W.
Yeah.
Is that if you have your Sean and everybody always says put your DMX on output number 1. So that's the first entry into the setup table. So most likely your E131 stuff is going to start on output number 2. Well, if you put on output number 2, instead of putting in universe 1, you actually set it for universe 2, and then all your next E131 universes go 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically, now the output index in the setup table matches the universe number.
Right.
So now you can actually use that little thing to go to 2, and then you can do it exactly. Then you can put in the same numbers that you're putting in your SAN device controller, if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I actually thought about doing that. Actually, I'm using. It's weird how I set it up. My first, so I got lore first. I got 128 channels. I got 8 boxes there in lore. So that's the first 128 on output 1. And then output 2 is my DMX, J1 Sys DMX controller. So it has 2 universes, 1 and 2. But I only use one of those 2. But I'm using 1 at the moment. But I could turn off 1 and just make it 2 and put all my floods and whatever that are on that on the 2.
The key is to make the universes match the index they are in the table. So
yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
If you don't start your E131 to index number 3, then you set that universe to number 3, and now the output number equals the universe number.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. I might go back and do that actually.
But then you could put in then it's nice, and I actually made an enhancement about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, to make it auto calculate your end addresses. Because before, when Dan first did it, whenever you set it to output 2 and then you set the start channel to 1, let's say you had a big mega tree, it would just continuously keep incrementing on output 2 all the way up to like 10,000. It wouldn't actually go, okay, there's only 510 channels in output 2. On this next string, I need to go to output 3. So I kind of made it to where it calculated the end addresses correctly now. So now it automatically, it pixel packs it for you, and they should match up perfectly to a SAN device or even the F16V2 in universe channel number.
Well, yeah, I noticed when I had my output wrong one time that I noticed it did cross the output numbers. And I guess it shows you that you're on the screen of your model. It shows, okay, if I'm on output 3 starting at channel 1, but I've got a model that's not in the right output number, and one of my output universes is lower than 512, or 510. And so when I put it on there, it said that it started on output 3, but then it moved to output 4 at the end. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. And that's when I had my output number wrong. Once I changed it right, then it worked right.
And that's the enhancement. And then it sounds like you've downloaded X-Lights in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, that's the enhancement.
Yeah.
Before, what it would do it would just keep on output 2, and it would just increment as if it was like absolute. So
Right, gotcha.
it would never go to 3, and it would just
Yep.
stay on 2.
Yeah, that was nice that it showed that. And in fact, it'd almost be nice maybe if it turned red and said, "Hey, you sure about this?"
Well, what it does, it just assumes that you want to go to the next output number.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, it makes sense. If the model says, "Hey, I got 1,000 pixels," but that universe is used up on the first one, then it rolls to the second one. That's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, because it's trying to calculate it all for you. Now, if it rolled over and let's say there wasn't a next universe, let's say that you were on universe 2 and you had 1,000 channels and there was no universe 3, then it would show, say, invalid on the last string or whatever one's trying to cross over. Those would be.
Yeah, I had that too. Because I had things all wacky.
So I guess the big question, David, is did you get a shipment today?
I do. I'm lazy. They're sitting on my desk right now, sitting on my living room table.
Now, was that the shipment for the very last one that you just did, or the one before that?
Yeah, it's number 3. The last one was number 4. That's not going to be until another week or so.
Gotcha. I was excited, and then I was like, oh well, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not in that group, and I'm not.
Oh, you're in number 4?
I'm in number 4.
Yeah, you're like the last. You're like the last possible. I think what we ordered in late October on that one, or
Right.
even. Man, I want to think
It was a couple of weeks ago.
November. Yeah.
If an extra board falls out, just drop it in the mail to me.
Yeah, I will.
Well, Dave, I'm glad I didn't order it because it's like, well, not glad. I'm glad that I didn't hold my show up on it. But when do you expect them in?
Next week, he said.
Next week?
Yeah.
Well, if you do have a spare one, I wouldn't mind grabbing one, but I think they're all taken already.
I don't
already said I'd buy one on the fly, but it was like it's a little too late for my show.
Yeah. Okay. We offered them all. Well, now so next year when we do it, and it sounds like you got your show taken care of, so probably no rush to wait till next spring.
Are you expecting another version or 2 of the board for next year?
I don't know. I can't really promise anything. Whatever we do on the first pre-sale will probably be what we do for the year. So if I don't make it before February, March, then probably there won't be one for the year. Because the last thing I want to do is create a new board in July, and people that bought boards in March feel like they got, So I don't know yet. I know I usually have a lot of extra time in December, November.
Yeah. After your lights are up.
Yeah.
Is that nose growing just a little bit?
Then it's not outside.
She said that.
Oh.
That's my phone.
So just out of curiosity, Dave, are you able to do firmware updates to that board, or so if you find bugs or something like that?
We do firmware updates through a USB cable connected to a Windows computer, but I'm probably going to be making a Java program that does it on any platform soon.
Okay. The demo you did was just awesome. It's like made me want to just on the fly get it, but it's like I knew the time constraints were going to be real close, and so I probably made the right decision, but I still have remorse.
Yeah. Now I just got to get them out. Got to go, and it's cold out in my garage. I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, of course, most of us have a real life to do besides this.
Well, luckily, my show doesn't start till the Friday, a week after. Well, basically the weekend after Thanksgiving weekend. So I pushed mine off to that next week. So I'll have a little bit extra time. My show starts the 4th. So
yeah,
I'll have a little time to, because it's going to be pretty straightforward for me. I mean, I'm coming from the E682 side, so it's not that big of a, it's as far as channels and setting up everything.
The connectors actually are the same. You probably just plug the same 4-pin connectors you got.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, do you go and you map everything out, even though you don't have the hardware out there?
How do I do? Let me think about that. I know. I know what's going to connect to the Falcon in my mind. I already know what's going to connect to it, so I already kind of know what the channels are going to be, or at least what. It doesn't really matter what universe they are. I just need to. I'll need to update my models in X Lights.
Because one of the things that I've noticed with Vixen 3 is you have to start mapping out, your starting and ending pixels for each element.
Yeah.
And you
See.
can set it up what universe you want everything to be in, which is the controller. But it's a matter of now you have to start writing it down, or typing it or whatever you do. It's like, okay, my stars are going to be this. The arches are going to be from here to here. The runways are going to be from here to here. The palm tree is going to be from here to here. And it's like as I slowly redesign, because one of the things that I've noticed is like, well, depending upon what I want to combine is what screws me up. So, for instance, I start saying, well, like I was telling Kevin, I'm going to put my arches up to look like they're on the roof, but they're really going to be right next to it. So now it's like, okay, now the data line that's going to it from the controller, I have to take into account what I'm going to run through on one line. So now I have to go and say, make sure that my 3 arches are all going to be on one output. My stars, and this is where I wish I had that controller, because my stars are 150 pixels each, and I have 3 stars, so that's 450. And the Alpha Pix only does 340, so now that's 2 data lines out there.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is I'm about 3 years into running 3 or 4 years running pixels, so I already know what my lines are going to be and kind of where things are at and what data lines are going to be where. So the one thing I'm excited about with the Falcon is I've got a few runs where like my windows, I was lazy and I haven't cut the extra pixels off. So I've got like 3 pixels at the end of my window run. Well, with the Falcon now, I'm going to be able to go in there and do a virtual string and tell it that's those 3 pixels are, dead, null pixels basically. It's going to help me out a lot instead of having to sit in the during sequencer and figure out and map and create a blank channel for those pixels.
Well, you could just extend that somewhere.
Yeah, but you'd be able to see it. So they're like pixels that are they're hanging there. They're not part of the.
Oh, I see. And you don't want them accidentally lighting up.
Right. I just want them to be dark.
Yeah.
And with 682, you can't do that. I mean, you can't. The only way you can do that is in your sequencer and just create a blank channel.
One of the things that I hate, being pretty much by myself here, in Delafield, which is just a suburb of Milwaukee, is no one else has this. So I have no one to collaborate with, no one to say, well, take a look at what I've done,
Yeah.
Wish I had someone that was like, 20 minutes away and take a look at this, this is what it looks like. It's like, I can, see a couple of the videos that you guys have done and it's like, I have to, but I don't see the controllers. I don't, until Dave just showed that nice demo of his, but it's like, you're kind of going in the dark and you're, buy something. And then you run into people say, well, just buy another one.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I still have one, my money tree still has a couple leaves on it, in the backyard, but unfortunately, I'm not like, I forget who that was that had that huge grid that they were planting up in their front yard or wherever it was.
That was Eric.
So Eric is like 3,400 pixels. I mean,
yeah.
And I'm looking at if you can get the pixels cheap, and I mean cheap, 30 cents a piece, right? And 30 times 3,400, it's like, we're talking easily $1,100, and that doesn't include the
wiring and the
time and the power supplies.
Well, in Eric's situation, he messed up and ordered 5 volt instead of 12 volt on accident. And so now he's really having to run extra wires, do some more power injection, stuff he wasn't prepared to do.
Well, I was thinking about it because he said it was, I think 6-inch spacing, 6-inch by 4-inch or something like that.
I don't remember.
And I'm like, can you imagine having one bad pixel and then half your roof isn't lit up, and having to walk up there with only 6-inch spacing to fix that one pixel?
I've done it.
I can't picture. And then, of course, you go and you fix that one pixel that's bad, and you get down on the roof, and you found out that you just pulled the wires out of another pixel, and you go up there, and then another one.
Yeah.
And
that sounds like me on the version 1 Technicolors. I was up there freaking cutting, splicing. I was like Edward Scissorhands up there.
And it's like, of course, I can't do something like that, even if I wanted to, because we get snow, and it would get buried immediately,
Chevy Chase did it, man. You'd be all right.
Well, if these were actual, hot bulbs, I probably could, because it would melt the snow away from it. But LEDs that are just doesn't get buried, and it probably might look cool if there's only 2 inches. But sometimes in December we might get 6 to 8 inches of snow on the roof.
I had one pixel go bad last year that was on the edge corner of where my peak comes down, and there's a valley. And I'm sitting there. I'm 6 foot, 235 pounds. And I'm like squinched up in a little teeny tiny valley of the roof, trying to fix that stupid pixel, hanging on for, I'm got my safety harness on, just praying to God that I don't drop off the edge.
That's why I have a ranch house now. I used to have a 2-story house, and it's. I don't worry about falling off the roof if I can't, if I'm secured, but I think about dying sometimes,
Yeah, I don't go up on that roof without a safety harness on. That's just
That's smart.
Yeah.
But you don't have snow by you either.
No, we don't. Thank goodness. We just have frost. That's about it.
It's like with me, it's like I have gone up on a roof when there's been snow. But be very, very careful. It's like, but of course, if there were 3 or 4 feet of snow underneath where you'd slide off and fall into a snowbank, then it wouldn't be so bad.
You still poop your britches.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I went so far this year. I had an anchor point on the back side of the house because all of my work is on the front side of the house. But if I were to have fallen or twisted up in my safety line and fallen off the backside, it would have been a 30-foot fall down to the other side. And so this year I put another anchor point on the front side of the house, and then bought some new safety line and just run it over the house and connect it on both sides. That way, if I get dumb feet and fall off the other side, I'm not going to hit the ground.
And you have a tall house too.
Yeah, I've got a pretty tall house. My highest peak. That's why I started getting the lift. That was pretty freaking scary.
It's like I don't like going up. I've got like a 16-foot ladder, and when I get at about 12 feet, it's like I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sketchy.
But I think that's. And I probably have about an extra 10 pounds on you. So, we have a little weight problem here. You don't. There's a little bit more in the front than what there should be, and so your balance obviously isn't as good as someone that's 90 pounds and they're not going to pull the ladder back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Luckily, I'm not afraid of heights.
And heights don't bother me as long as I know I'm strapped onto something. So if I was on one of those lifts and I know I can't, as long as I'm, clipped onto it and I can't fall, I'm fine. But when you're on a ladder, and I guess I would just worry more about, you're walking around and you got a little, mud or something on there, and you slip off a rung and you slide down a little bit. and you don't fall, but it hurts like hell.
Pucker factor.
Yes. And then it's that strange language that comes out.
Yeah.
So Dave, I'm curious with this cool board that you've got. Do you have any video or something? I think you mentioned that you had some videos of what you've done with lights. So I would think that you'd have some really cool stuff.
Well, you'd be surprised. Usually, some people involved in hardware aren't as good as sequencers as others. like I don't sequence anything until I get my lights up, and I haven't got my lights up, so I don't have any sequencing done for this year. I haven't even opened up the sequencer in the last few weeks, other than to help people on team viewers. So no, I'm not the best sequencer, but I do have a little story of that happened last year, and that is that my wife always makes me do a tribute song to the troops because we live in Colorado Springs and it's a big military town.
Okay.
And, so I threw together one with Nutcracker using auto generator, what we call the random effects, and you kind of, last year you had some ability to kind of weed it out, pick colors and stuff. So I picked only red, white, blue and stuff like that, and had it done in about 15 minutes. And I get my wife started, she about 3 weeks later, she started getting messages from this guy claiming to be on the America Great Light Fight. That he had seen our house or something like that on Facebook, and she was like, I don't know what he's talking about, because we didn't post anything on Facebook. Well, he kept saying, no, we really want you to, think about coming on the show or whatever, because we saw your house on Facebook. Well, finally, she did some research. You know what it was is the week after Christmas, the first week of January, we received a box in the mail with a bunch of CDs and stuff. In a shirt and some CDs and a couple other little things, knickknacks from the band that we used for the the national anthem. And we're like, what the heck? And they were like, yeah, thanks for posting on Facebook. Well, it turned out that I had a neighbor that was like 2 blocks away. He mentioned the story. He said that he was looking out his living room windows wondering where all these lights were coming from. Well, tonight he said he jumped in his car and found out where the light was coming from. And then he took a small, like a video of my house that was kind of like a Blair Witch Project type video. And he posted it on the site of the people that make the song. Well, it went viral. And by the time I saw it early January, it had 2.2 million views.
Wow.
Yeah, but it wasn't that I had a lot of good sequencing. It was pretty much thrown together in 15 minutes. But the fact that I had a military tribute in there, and I said thank you to the military, and it's during Christmas time, so there was a lot of, went militarily viral. People sending it to people in Iraq and Kuwait.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll find the link. Is there a way we could post it here?
Yeah. Just post the link up in chat.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, that picture you have there looks really safe to me.
That was my first year of living in this house, and that was how I put the lights up there.
I'm just trying to picture what would happen if the feet of that ladder slipped and both of you are sliding down at the same time.
Well, I mean that roof part of the roof is fairly flat. I mean, it's just a small pitch to it, so it's not as bad as it looks, but it definitely was sketchy.
I saw a video of someone that was doing something like this, and it very, very similar to that. And it's like the guy goes up there and he's hauling the ladder up and everything, and I'm like, the guy has to have nerves of steel. You want to think that these rubber feet are going to hang on, they're not going to move and that. And it's like, well, Murphy's Law says that you have a 50% chance that it's going to give way, and you have that in the back of your mind. And I'm like, I don't think I would do that unless I had lines hanging from the top coming down and hanging on to that at least to my waist or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I rent the lift now. I don't have to do all that mess. And when I take it down, all I have to do is reach up with an extender pole and pull out, and it just slides off, and I just catch the top of it. It's very, very easy to. Of course, it's easy to take down. Putting it up is a pain.
My old house was a 2-story house, and I had a big extended enclosed front porch, and so I could stand on there, and it was, I don't know, a good 10 foot of roof, so you weren't going to slide off of it. And I could go there and put regular, old lights on there, and it was nice. But even with that, it's like I didn't like going within 2 feet of the edge. It's like, if your foot slips, and surprisingly, where the house was, and this was in the city, so the next house, if you slipped off on one side, I could jump to the neighbor's roof. On the other side, I was going to die.
Yeah.
So it's like, not me.
I mean, even with the lift, I have a neighbor across the street who he's only got a short little run to do, and he was so scared of heights that he would get up in that lift and he just locked up. He couldn't do anything. And finally we got him moving and he got it done, but it took him forever to put those lights up there because he was more worried about falling, which he wasn't going to do.
Yeah. But, maybe the following year he'd be fine.
Yeah, he's going to use it this year. I think he's going to be a little more comfortable up there this year. He's got his bottom run done, so all he's got to do is his top run, which isn't that much. Actually, his roof is the pitch is like half the pitch of mine. I mean, I'd walk it if it was mine, but the corners are the sketchy parts.
Oh yeah.
And I've got to figure out a way. I've got a little stretch on the top corner of my house. It's probably only about I don't know. It's probably about 6 foot in length along a gutter. And I got to figure out a better way of hooking lights on that. It's on the end. I don't even think anybody really sees it. I'm thinking about skipping it because I'm always on my darn tiptoes on the edge. Even though I'm tied in and everything, there's no other way you can't get to it from below because the pitch of the roof is so steep you can't stand on it. And it's always sketchy on that side of the house. That's the worst. That's the spot I hate. But I'm past that now. I've done it already. It's done for the season. Luckily, that's the first spot I hit, and so I get my shaky knees out of the way. I went up there this morning. It was hot it got hot. My rear end started burning. I got a black rooftop, black shingle, so it got hot quick. I'm waiting for David to come over and help me.
Dave who? Dave W?
Yeah.
You like neighbors?
Yeah, he lives down the street. Not down the street, but he lives in another neighborhood.
Okay.
Fairly close, less than a mile. But you didn't tell me you were taking off today. I might have taken off and helped you.
Yeah, I take off the week after Thanksgiving every year, so I can, get it out of the way.
Well, it's hitting the week after Thanksgiving. Then. Were you talking about the week after Halloween?
Yeah, the week after Halloween.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Week after Halloween.
Man, you guys are close because when you talk, it says Kevin, and when he talks, it says David, but it's the same little box. Seriously, is it? Oh, maybe because there's more when I hit the little plus arrow or something. Yeah, okay. There's a lot more. Can you make those little boxes that have? I guess those are video boxes.
Yeah. Everybody, nobody's sharing video right now.
Is there a way you can make those smaller where you could see them all instead of just the 4?
I think you can, like at the top right-hand corner, if you highlight, I think you click on speaker view, and that'll give you a little different view.
All right.
Or gallery.
The matter is, guys, if some of us you don't want to see on a video.
I hear that. That's why I don't have a video.
Well, I know there's several people that know what my chin looks like.
Is that why you don't have video on this week, Roger?
That's it. I find out, since I know you record them, it's like, well, I don't want to be a celebrity. This way, maybe I can hide my voice at least.
Yeah, I just got through wiring up my neighbor down the street. He's using Pixels this year, so I was surprised actually. I've got some 4-strand 16 gauge, I believe, might be 18 gauge alarm wire that I'm using, that I use for my data and power injection. And I did a 33-foot length of cable to the first pixel straight from an E6804, and there was no problems with it whatsoever. It shocked the crap out of me.
Well, I'm finding out at 5 volts, I can go about 100 feet with 16 gauge, provided you're not running too many pixels off of it.
Yeah.
You know, because most of them are tolerant to, 4.2 volts or so.
Yeah. You got to watch the voltage drop. It's not the data problem. I mean, usually what I see is it's too far to that first pixel with the data, and you've got flaky data by the time you get to that first pixel. And I was just surprised. I ended up right like at 8 feet, putting one of those Rob G little buffer pixels, those little blank boards, and a null pixel. Well,
how does that board work? Does it work good?
Yeah. Basically, you just solder in the data, positive and negative in and then out, and it repeats the signal, and you don't have to account for it in any way. You don't have to say it's a null pixel. It just repeats the data. It's ignored.
How far is it extending the signal at the maximum?
I don't know. People have been getting pretty far with it though.
Okay. Well, obviously I'm not having that problem. But,
right.
Who sells that?
Rob G. Over on Do It Yourself Christmas.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, he threw a hint that he's going to have another group buy soon.
Say again?
Yeah, he threw a hint on Do It Yourself Christmas that he's going to have another group buy for that.
Yeah, those things are awesome.
I was tempted to get one of those, but then I said, well, most of my runs are going to be 70 to 80 feet, and that's not going to work for me. Price is right, though.
Isn't that Rob G unit about the equivalent of a microamp?
Yeah, yes.
One of the things I've been meaning to try is running multiple signals through a Cat6 cable. So far, every cable I've made only has one twisted pair of signals, and theoretically I can run 3. And I don't think I'm going to do it this year, but I think probably next year I'm going to try to minimize only having like 2 cables coming out of the house from the controller going out to the whole yard and see how that works.
I'm going to post a link in chat if anybody wants to see what I'm talking about. There you go. And those things are teeny tiny. I showed them last week. I put a penny up beside them. You can see it in the video. They're teeny tiny. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to solder my darn wire to it. They're so small. And I did wear my magnifying glasses to do it.
Did you turn down your temperature on your iron to solder that?
No, I've got is it sitting at what, 325? And I just, it didn't take much to hit it.
Is that 325 Celsius?
Fahrenheit, I believe. Yeah, I have to go out there and look now. Fahrenheit, that's Fahrenheit.
Okay, because I had mine set at 600, and it seems like it works better because you have a very minimal amount of time you have to have anything on.
Yeah, I mean, you want to try to minimize, but with the least amount of heat without having to sit there and hold it. And with these boards, they're so small. All I had to do was touch the solder pad, tin it, put a little bit of solder on it, and then tin the wires, and just barely touch it, and it just flowed right on and connected. So
It seems really a low temperature. I'll have to
Yeah.
set mine down and try that once.
yeah, I solder all of my Renard boards at that temperature with a fine tip.
Really?
Yep.
Which solder are you using? Some of them are low temp.
Here, let me look up the name of it. It's an adjustable. Let's see. Look it up real quick.
So it melts on your while you have it outside when the roof gets hot, right?
No. I did. You know what? I did buy a battery operated soldering iron for when I'm up on the roof, and I was surprised the thing works pretty good.
Do you use a welder for the battery controlled?
For the what?
For your battery controlled?
Yeah, it's a Weller brand. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
that little
I think
red
I have
one.
the same one.
Yeah, you gotta have good batteries in it. That's the only thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Once the batteries start going, you don't get anything.
Has anyone ever tried? A couple years ago on the commercials, they had the it looked like a plastic pen, and you soldered with it. It was like cool to the touch.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that thing's crap.
it's crap.
It's crap.
Well, what it is the end. You have to bridge your piece of metal with it for it to make contact, and then it gets hot, and it's crap. Don't waste your money on it.
Yeah, I've got one. I'll send it to you if you pay for the postage.
Yeah,
Thanks.
It's called cool something. I forget. Cool heater or something. I forget.
Since we were talking about going long distance, have you guys seen, the guy that makes the micro amp, Corey? He's on Falcon site. I gave him his own little forum. Well, this is a controller that he makes that is what we call the micro smart string controller, or the micro smart controller. And that's compared to what it is the size of a penny.
Now that controls up to a universe.
150 pixels.
150 pixels.
And they're 2811 style pixels.
Right.
12 volt only. It doesn't come in 5 volt. So these are the one that I am showing you here doesn't have any of the LEDs on there. And they come pre-soldered. Everything's ready to go other than attaching the wires. And they sell for about $8.50 during our group buys. In fact, he has some for sale now. But you use these in conjunction with what we call the hub. I don't know if I could show you the hub. Do you have is there a way to take over?
Yeah. Do that share screen down in the bottom center, David. Jason, I posted a link to my soldering iron in the chat. It's got Chinese letters on it. It's from Hobby King. But it works good. It works real good. I soldered up all my quadcopter stuff with it.
Oh, okay. I got a welder, so I have a welder station at my work table.
Let's see if I could pull up the wiki. I think we have but the idea is that you would, let me show you the hub. And this is an option for those. This uses a protocol called PixelNet. So these smart string controllers, the little boards like that, you could go up to about 100, 150 feet, with the Cat 5 cable to it. And on the Cat 5, typically if you're running, 150 pixels, you want to have a power supply close to the, that's separate. You're maybe only sending data. But I have successfully ran 80, 90, 100 pixels, with it over 100, up to about 100 feet. In fact, all my roof line is using that. Let me see if I could find the hub manual.
So that little board is only usable with the hub?
Yeah, it's only usable with the hub.
Gotcha. I was trying to figure out.
All the other differential controllers, they need to, you know, for instance, other vendors are their devices are usually, you know, there's a differential transmitter or driver on the other side. So, you know, typically they're only usable with their transmitter controller. I'm thinking of a couple vendors. And I apologize for not being, I haven't really looked at the hub in a while, although we did make it about 2 years ago. All this came from RJ's site, DLA, DIYLightAnimation.com, which was the inventor of PixelNet. And I think he's a really good forward thinker, you know, because now everybody's coming out with a differential controllers and stuff. I think he was the first one that did it. Yeah, I don't know where. You know what? Maybe it's actually on the forum. Let me back up here. Go to the Falcon 16 port hub.
Hey, Rick, was that you that just sent that donation?
Here we go.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, thanks to Rick and David for helping me pay for the hosting of this.
No problem. This is great.
I didn't know you're taking donations, brother.
It was somebody that asked me, and I threw up a PayPal link. I mean, I'll throw one up. It's not a big deal.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so this is the hub. The F16 V2 can drive this board right out of the. There's 4 ports on the F16 V2. See my little boy in the background there? There's 4 serial ports on the F16 V2, and there's 4 connectors. The first serial port on the F16 V2 has all 4 serial ports on there, so there's all 4 pairs are on there. So you can drive 4 serial circuits right on that one wire. Well, that's the wire that you'd want to put into this port right here. Can you see the mouse?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the port that you'd want it. So you'd connect from the F16 V4's port 1 and down that wire, since it's what PixelNet really is. A lot of people get turned off with just the word PixelNet. Excuse me while I shut the door. I don't want to get attacked by a bunch of Nerf guns. At any time I get shot, man, it's like, you know, I feel like I'm in a war zone over here. Sniped and everything. He's got scopes, and I don't even know where they're coming from. So yeah, what PixelNet is it's instead of like DMX's 512 channels, what PixelNet is it's a RS-485 signal such as like DMX, and it's 4096 channels. So it's 8 times the amount of data, and instead of running at 250 kilobits per second, it runs at 1 megabit per second. So it's 4 times quicker. So you actually are sending, you know, 8 times the amount of data down a single pair. And then what RJ did is he took, you know, he took 4 circuits of that. So when you add it all up, down the Cat5 cable, you're sending 16,384 channels of data, which is 32 universes. So when you output out the F16 V2 PixelNet, all 4 circuits, because you can only choose to send, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 circuits. You don't have to send them all. You could save, you know, some of those circuits for DMX on the other ports, the other 2, 3, and 4 ports, which only have 1 circuit on each. But you could send DMX. But if you were to send all 4, you'd be sending 16,000 channels to this board. And then when this board receives it, these little selectors right here select which 2 of the 4 it's going to read into what I call the A, the B. So what it does is around these, there's 4 groups of output ports, and each group could either be selected to output whatever A is or whatever B is. So this group of 4 could select either A or B, and this group of 4 A or B, this group. So you can say, okay, I want A to be the first 4,000 channels, and I want B to be the next 4,000 channels, circuits 1 and 2. And then you can say, okay, I want these 4 ports to output A, and I want these to output B, and so forth. So you can intermix them to, you know, drive up to 8,192 channels out to those little smart string controllers right there. So whenever you send data, one of your controllers would plug in with a Cat5 cable like right here. So you'd have a Cat5 cable that would plug in here, and 3 of the wires would be for ground, 3 of the wires would be for power, and the other 2 would be the pixel net coming in of the circuit that's been selected. So you could, essentially on that cable, you're sending out 4,096 channels, and then you could go 16 different directions up to 125 feet. This board on co-op was about 60, 65 bucks, and these are about $8. So it's probably a $200 solution if you have an F-16 V2 to drive it with, to go in 16 different directions. You know, so that's about what that's kind of how that works. You guys have any questions regarding that one? And again, this is a co-op type board. It's not even bought in the store. You kind of sign up for the co-op, and then there's a co-op manager, similar to, you know, the way co-ops are ran on different forums.
Dave, I had to step away for a second. The microcontroller you're holding up, that thing, which one is that again?
That's called the Micro SC, made by Corey.
Yeah, I have 10 of them sitting right in front of me, so now I gotta way to use them. Thank you.
Yeah, and they're pretty handy. Again, you can see how small it is. That's a penny. What I do is I have a wire coming in that's 4-pin. That's a 4-pin connector. So I take my Cat5 cable and I cut the ends off. I normally buy the Cat5 with the ends on it in case I need an end. I don't have to put one on because I'm lazy like that. And I found out that the bulk cable is almost the same as buying a 100-foot cable from Monoprice that has the ends on there. So I normally, what I'll do is I'll cut the ends off and I'll put a 4-pin connector on one side, and I'll leave the Cat5 connector on the other. So the side with the Cat5 connector I plug into here, which is in a waterproof enclosure. Typically I use marine battery boxes from Home Depot. And we also have an ATX board where you can bring in power from an ATX computer power supply, and it converts it to a regular, 2-wire input that you could come into here with. So that's typically how I get my power for these, although you can just drive them directly from 2 30-amp power supplies. Again, this is a 12-volt system. This board's got power indicators and mini fuses to indicate that power is going to the ports.
Nice.
It also has the ability of decoding from that PixelNet, because remember, PixelNet's not DMX, so you can select this little processor here can decode and output up to 3 DMX universes or Renard here. So once you get that PixelNet that comes out of the F-16 V2 to this board, and you output it all to these little smart string controllers, you can then go ahead and output DMX to 3 universes of DMX. If this was really close to where your DMX devices are, it would save you another wire. You could have up to 3 of those on there. And it's got a little address scheme so you can program it actually in the field. What you're programming, the main programming is done for the DMX portion of the board. And that's kind of how that works. This controller has a bunch of different advanced grouping and abilities to add, like group strings and null nodes and stuff like that. I would say similar to the F-16 V2, but maybe not quite as powerful. But it does have what I call custom groupings and different things like that on there, up to 150 pixels. Yeah, so that little board, you basically put I normally have a little wire coming off of it on both sides, and then you could a lot of times with these I will mold them right into my element. For instance, I have 3 north poles that take about 50 pixels each, and I connect 3 of them together, and in the first one I'll put one of these heat shrinked with waterproof heat shrinking, kind of the adhesive ones, right into the line with just so I'll have a 4-pin connector that goes to the element, then this will go, and then this will connect to the actual first string of lights, and it's molded right into the cable. It's like a bump on the wire. There's no need for little, a lot of people do put them in maybe capsules, little 3/4 inch 40 or 20 schedule PVC pipe. I personally just heat shrink them together, and then you can reprogram it without taking it out or needing to access it just right through the PixelNet signal. So that's that one. That's my show and tell for the night.
My show and tell's out in the yard. It's dark.
Yeah. So how do I give back control?
Yeah, there you
Yep.
go. Who in here is using James's pixel strips?
I have a bunch of them. They're awesome.
Nobody else?
More than I'd like to say.
I've had a problem with them. I bought them last year. Though I was one of the first people that bought them when he was first started to sell them, and they're cracking on me. Where the pixel holes are because I'm using pixel bulbs. The sides are just it's like popping. And I'm not bending them in any vigorous way. Just manipulating the strength, the strip, and they're breaking on me.
When did they start breaking? This year?
This year, yeah. And he sent me four or five, replacements, and he said, he hasn't had any more, hasn't had any reported problems, but I can't be the only one. I do live in North Carolina, so we're a little warm, but I would think you'd have the same problem in a cold environment too.
I thought he started using thicker material in the later strips.
And maybe. I've got some sitting beside me. Yeah, that looks to be about the same. Maybe it might be a little thicker. The tree's up now, so I'm just repairing it. I'm drilling a hole in the bottom below the crack and above the crack and using a zip tie to put it back together. Still a whole lot better than spacing them out on conduit.
Yeah, I would never even think of doing that.
Because up until he started selling those, that's what I was going to do last year. I'm so glad he came out with those things.
Now, is that almost the same as what Holiday Coral is selling?
Yeah, Holiday Coro borrowed his idea.
Because I was going to say, Holiday Coral has places where you actually could, if they broke like that, you could overlap pieces and then zip tie it right over the top of it.
I want to say that James's new design allows that, has different holes so you can zip tie a repair line. I want to say that the new ones have that.
Well, they definitely have the zip tie. So you can go, you could easily join two together. In fact, he's got a video of putting a lot of tension on a joint just with one zip tie. So, I think that they're like that. At least the ones that I have are like that.
Yeah, I think the new ones, though, have more holes for connections. Like the ones I have, there's only zip tie connections at the top and bottom.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, there's zip ties everywhere.
Yeah, there you go. Like Steve's got there.
Yeah, that's how mine are, yeah.
These
Yeah,
are
mine
from
aren't
James.
like that. Yeah, mine aren't like that. I've got the other ones from James that don't have those 3 holes like that.
Yeah, Holiday Coral looks just like that.
I think they use a different plastic, though, both of them. And I don't know. I remember one's a better type of plastic than the other. Now, I've heard stories of other strips cracking other than James's. I have people in my area that they cracked without even going through a season yet. Not James's, though.
The ones I'm using, because I bought 20 of the strips, and you'll rip your fingers up before you break them things.
Well, give us a report at the end of the season, or next year after they've sitting in storage.
Yeah, my buddy must have a bunch of damaged fingers because he broke a lot of them.
Oh,
You don't want to drill thousands of holes like this?
Oh, heck no, I'm not doing that. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah, that's the way.
I did that exactly, Rick. I have 1,200 lights on 24 strands of that.
Yeah, that's my mega trees all done like that. But I like it. It hangs nice and straight, and it doesn't wobble in the wind, and I like it. but it is a pain in the ass to every 3 inches drilling a hole.
On both, did you drill on both sides? Show it again.
Yeah, it goes right through the.
Oh yeah.
So you plug it
That's
in.
how I did mine, but I had to drill a hole on each side because I used
Yeah.
a stepper bit.
Yeah, that's what I used to. So they plug right through the hole, right?
Yep, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it holds them nice and straight and facing forward, and I like it, but it's a chore.
I made a jig for my drill press, and it just went quicker.
That's what I did. I made spots so that I could hook the where I drilled the last one, and it would kind of space it along. But yeah, it's still lots of fun. Well, I got one here. Yeah, I took one of those stepper bits like you said, and I actually ground it down a little bit so it would I wouldn't have to fuss with stopping somewhere. I could drill right through, and it would be the proper size that it just tight enough that they hold perfectly.
Yeah. I just counted 5 steps. Like I could feel. That's sound.
I don't know what I did with it.
Do you guys that have the pixel strips from James? Do you guys remove your lights? How do you store those things? That was a problem I had.
I just hang them.
Yeah, I don't have a place to hang them. I rolled them up.
We've got them in big tubs here, those Rubbermaid tubs, and we bring each of the 5 trees down and put them in there, and they've lasted pretty well.
So do you kind of just like roll them into that tub, or do you just?
They don't roll up like a piece of tape, but they
Yeah.
do. They will go in there just fine. And when I bring them out, a couple of them may have a twist or two in them, but no bends. And we hang them up, and after a couple of days, they're nice and straight again.
And do you roll them like tape, or do you just kind of?
Just let them go down into the tub naturally. Don't press them.
Right.
These are bigger tubs. The trees are all 16 foot, all 50 per line and 16 strings per tree. And they go into the big Rubbermaid tubs and they stack up, and they spent the whole year and with no problem.
Yeah. I kind of did the same thing. I've got a 12-foot tree that I'm using them on.
There's a picture of Dave at the expo where he opened his suitcase and it had these in there. And I think the greatest comment was, "Look, Dave's a light packer."
You know, I still have them in that suitcase. I was able to put 16 50 note strings again, just like the gentleman stated. They just, you know, I kind of started with bigger rings to fill up the outside, and then moved into the smaller, and I had 16 strings fit in that suitcase. You know, no problem. They're still in there.
Now they're going to stop you at the airport. Kind of what's going on lately.
No, I didn't throw in any little 7-segment LED displays in there though either. Of course, not many bombs have a little display that shows the counter on the left. Not running real bombs.
Curious, did you have any the Monkhouse clips on the ends of those strings?
What are Monkhouse clips?
James made them up. They're just a metal or aluminum clip that goes on each end.
I have those. When I took them to the show, I didn't use them, but I'm going to use them this year when I put them, because I think I'm just going to go staked right to the ground with it rather than have like a bar. And I think I'm going to use those. I do have a bunch of them. Yeah, I think he does call them monk clips now that I think about it.
Yeah, they were named after Monkhouse, and we discovered those when he first made them out, and we put them on all the trees this year, and they have made a world of difference as far as pulling on those straps evenly and cleanly. And we've been able just to tie wrap them right to the bar that we use as the bottom of the tree.
Do you guys see this?
Yep.
Yeah, I love those strips from James. I think that's the strip of choice.
Oh yeah.
Let's stretch this out here. This is what I was working on last night.
Yeah,
Over the week.
I'll walk out to my tree real quick and do a show and tell too.
This is I call it a palm tree, I guess. Expand this thing a little bit.
It's a Milwaukee palm tree.
Yeah, really. To me, it looks like one, but
Yeah, it does.
last year I had it. So now I'm going to have it like a mega tree. It's going to have 8 sides to it. And what I'm using, if you can see what this is electric fence wire. So it's like coat hanger wire. Let's see if I have a spool. That spool's not here, but it's very rigid. It's on PVC pipe. So you can see the PVC pipe like that, and then it all comes right up to the top here.
So I've got another question for you. So you got your PVC pipe as a T or an X at the bottom that's going to sit on the ground, right?
Actually, it's going to be 8 feet off the ground.
How high?
8 feet. So you can see how one leg goes that way.
Yeah.
So it's 2, and then what I'm doing is on the end, one faces down and one faces up to equalize that. So it's
And these are going on the ground?
no, this is going to be sitting on another PVC pipe that's going to raise it up about 8 feet.
Okay. Okay.
So this is going to be, so looking down at it, you can kind of see, yeah, and they're obviously not straight because once I take it out of the basement, because this isn't going to fit through the doorway, so I have to disassemble it a little bit, and then I'll straighten all the wires after that point.
Right.
Oh no! Sorry about that, guys.
But same concept as my little mega trees. But you can tell this is Santa's workshop, and Kevin, you were talking about your soldering station. Here's mine.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'll go over and check it and see what it is. Yeah, I'm right at 350 Fahrenheit. No, Celsius.
Okay, so I have mine set at, I don't know if you could read that display.
Buy that in Canada, Kevin?
Oh yeah. So I'm going to show you what I did with my strips. And see if I can get out. Get some shoes on.
You said that was 350 Celsius,
Yes.
662 Fahrenheit.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I actually have mine colder than yours.
I was going to say, because I run mine at like 700.
Okay, and just to prove to you the short cables that I run outside, these are what my cables are. And here's what the ends. This electrical tape over them. The weather doesn't seem to affect it at all. So here's one. And another one, and another one. And of course, lots of speaker wire. And this I had out, let's buy some light here. This is probably a 100-foot spool here that I had out for Halloween. So I'll head back to the main room. I'll shut this guy down. But just thought I'd show you that.
Can everybody see my video?
Yep.
So basically, I just put my pole in the ground, and then I use half-inch PVC come across the back. I'm doing a 180, and then I just zip tie the strips straight to the.
Are you coming straight down the pool, or are you coming out like 2 foot from the pool?
Yeah, so So that's the top of my tree with my topper. And then I'm coming out, I want to say it's 3.5 feet from the pole. Like that. And so I'm doing a 180 and just made a half circle. And then I just,
Oh, okay. I thought when you did the 180, you just came straight down and was like a straight across. I like that better.
and so I don't have any support behind these. They're just hanging straight from the top. But what I do is I take paracord and weave it around in 3 or 4 places, in and out, to keep this thing from twisting in the wind. And it held up really well last year.
What was that height again?
Actually, I think it's like 11 foot 6 inches.
How many times did you go around with the paracord? 3 places, 4 places?
3 places, but I'm going to go in between each. So you can see one there, and then one right there,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's one up at the top, up in this area. And like I said, when I weaved it around, I used two different,
weave.
and kind of, so this can't really twist. It kind of locks it in place, and it's just paracord, so it's pretty strong.
How many strands do you have on that tree?
I have 20, and that's one of my repairs right there where it split.
Another thing you can do in Walter, the monkhouse design, he uses the strapping material, banding material like you'd get on a box for shipping string. And since it's flat, very similar to these Boscoyo strips, you just weave it in and out too.
As I'm looking at what your video is versus what Holiday Coral had, the strips from Holiday Coral are probably an extra, 16th inch plus on each side. Maybe that's why it holds up a little bit better.
That's the one I'm using from All Day Coral. And I put some pressure on them for my fire sticks.
Again, my neighbor here in Colorado, his hasn't held it up that well for him.
Huh.
So I don't know. I don't know. Whereas he got the Boyoscos and they seem to be working really good.
What kind of temperature range have you had those in?
Well, it gets minus 20 here.
Holy God.
Celsius.
Yeah.
I deal with metric, sorry.
So
20 to 40.
Well, I could probably try throwing one of mine while we're talking here. I could throw one in the freezer real quick and see if I can break it with my bare hands. I bet I can't.
So
He broke it in the summertime, so that's not the excuse.
Oh, okay. So maybe too much UV. That's it.
Could be.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be UV resistant, though, according to the website.
Yeah.
So did you guys determine that I was soldering at a higher temperature than you?
No, I solder like 725.
Okay.
Yeah, at your 300 degrees Celsius, that's only 650 some
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. I do mine all at 700, but I'm picky. If I'm going to burn myself, I'm going to do it royally.
Anything over 5, it's all the same.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't trip over my darn wires out there when I was walking around. That would have been funny.
I have guide wires come off my fire sticks and walking through at night. like a training course.
And I've done the same thing, and you know exactly where they are, and you still trip over them.
That's the bad part.
One of the things, I like watching what people do as far as their sequencing, but I think what catches my eye more is the ideas of how you build your props and stuff, because it gives me ideas then too. You can always redesign it for a song or whatever, but it's like, how do you go and throw, whether you're doing pixels or strips or whatever, just to have the ideas. And one of the things that I think I saw at Halloween, and it was too late for me to do, was someone came out and I think made like a little haunted manor, and they cut out windows, and they put milk jugs in there and lit them up, and something simple like just to see the idea of how that illumination looks. Costs you almost nothing. You have an old gallon of milk, and you just go and throw a couple of pixels in it, and it's just so simplistic. But it's like the know-how behind the scenes of how to make it look really cool. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It's just a matter of seeing what people have come up with, and so steal maybe an idea here or there. But what the hell?
That's how everybody learns. You pick something up from somebody and you do it your own way, and you end up coming up with either a worse way to do it or a better way to do it.
My problem is I just can't stop looking at the damn videos, and I've changed my show like 14 times already.
Yeah, it's time to stop changing your show. It's too close. Too close to showtime.
But the difference is that I don't have 4,000 pixels on mine. It's like a lot of it is already set. It's just a matter of where it's going to be in the yard. Like, for instance, I have 2 out of the 3 arches made already. I mean, the arches are made. I just have to string some lights on the third one. Then all of a sudden I saw someone put it up on the roof. All of a sudden now the actual arches aren't changing, but where they're going to be located changes, which in turn changes the cable length that you're going to have going to it. So the power going to it, where you're going to have to locate your power supply, and how long of a data cable you have.
Yes, I set my locations in January or February, and they don't change. My wife came up a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, "What do you mean you're not doing this?" She wanted my spiral tree was all white, and she wanted some color on there, and I was like, "Yeah, it's too late. But you can just throw some color." Like, no. I've already got it laid out. I'm not adding stuff.
But when you have pixels, you can do all that on the fly. Then all of a sudden, it's like, and my wife does that too. She says, "Well, wouldn't that look better if it was a different color?" But then you just go and sequence it a little different with pixels. And I've seen these people that have the Renards and such, and have this 200 cords running around in their front yard, and I'm like, okay, well, I have a few, but not 200.
Yeah, cable management is difficult when you start getting up in some of those high channel counts with the Lure and Renard.
Yeah,
and I have three Renard boxes that are in my yard right now, and I've got 4 boxes on the wall. So.
I have 724s.
Yeah.
And, it really does simplify things, though, when you can just have something. And I've seen some of these arches where you're just wrapping, 100, 800 light bulbs on a single arch, and it really simplifies things.
Yeah, my jump to pixels for 4 years ago basically was I was deciding I had decided I wanted more color than just white, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to go out and buy all red and all green, and I'm gonna have to run all of those lines at the same time, or I could spend some extra money and get pixels and have one strand up there and make it whatever the color is that I want it to be. And that's what kind of got me to jump to pixels.
Now, in my front yard, last year I had, well, I take it back, the year before, I have one of those rods for painting that you can extend out to be like 24 feet long and put, a brush on or roller or whatever. And so I put that up about 16 feet in my front yard, and I just used regular LED lights, just the colorful ones. And it had 8 strands coming down, and then halfway down it strung one across to kind of like support it so they wouldn't move around too much. It staked the ends down to the ground, and that looked pretty nice. And I said, after I saw that, then I saw one with regular pixels and do a mega tree, and it's just like, I gotta have that, But it's like, well, you start counting up these, and if you're putting them every 3 inches at 16 feet, and you're going to have 8 or 16 of them, all of a sudden, the price tag seems to be a little on the high side, And you can't, even if you buy these in quantity, you're really not getting them cheap. Unless you know a better place to get them cheaper than 30 cents a piece.
Ray Wu has them for cheap, but I can't say anything bad. The only negative interaction I've had with Ray Wu was when I purchased the Technicolor version 1s, and he's replaced those for me. And I have some 2801s that I've used from the beginning that are out in my show right now. And those pixels are cheap, but I think I paid, I want to say $35 for 100 pixels. So, what you're right, about 35 cents a pixel.
Yeah. So,
but they're going down in price.
You should be able to get them for 20 cents now, I think.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And I guess it depends on the style you're using, too.
Right.
So.
For the 12-volt 2811 bullet style, that's what I'm paying.
Are you using the 12-millimeter bullets?
Yep.
Yeah. And those look like a solid pixel to me. This year is the first year I bought them when Holiday Coro had them for like $18 a strand. I bought a bunch of them because it was too cheap to pass up.
Well, I bought them too, but that was $18 for 50 of them.
Yeah.
So you're still talking, close to 35 cents a piece.
It's 30 cents. You can get they'll end up around 22 cents when he puts them on sale.
Yeah. So are you getting them from Ray Wu, or are you buying them from a vendor?
What I bought some off of eBay last year and a few this year, and from Holiday Coro I bought about 600 this year.
Yeah, I got all my pixels from Holiday Coral.
How about you, Steve? I think that was you or Al. Well, it was Al that was talking.
Oh, it was me. This is Steve.
Okay.
I bought them all from Ray with the last year. I think I bought 1,400 of them, which is 14 strands of 100, and they all had a 2-meter, this 4-pin connector on them. They're 2811, so they're only using three of the conductors. But that's at about. I know I paid less than. I'm a cheap just like you guys, and I didn't pay more than 30 cents a pixel.
But it still adds up when you're trying to make a 16-foot tree.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you collect some this year and then collect some next year. I added another 600 pixels this year.
Yeah. One of the things that I dislike is most of the distance between all these pixels are 3 inches, the wires. And it's like, if you have a pixel go bad, there is no leeway for you to go and solder in a new one. You have to add some additional wire to it. I wish it would come in.
The bad wire has 3 wires. The good pixel has 3 wires, so it actually ends up longer. I found if you cut the wire close to the pixel, you'll end up with full 3 inches.
Well, true, but I guess I should restate that. Like where I was making my little palm tree thing, right? And they were going 16 pixels for each length, right? So you figure I'm going with 25. I bought some with either in 50 or 25 pixel lengths. So it's like I used 16, so I had 9 left over on some of them. So for one of them, it's like I'm going to piece two of the 9s together, but I needed 16 of them, so I cut 2 off. And when I put it together, where I add them together, the length is a little short. So I'm actually going to have to solder on an extra inch or inch and a half of wire to piece the pieces together.
See, that's the beauty from Brian and from Ray, is that you just contact them in a chat session, and I actually send them a diagram of exactly what I want. So I say I want, 5 of them to be 4 inches apart, and then I want you to go 20 inches, and then 5 of them are 4 inches apart, and then go 20, or you could set it to 6-inch centers. You can actually create sections and send him the diagram, and he charges a nominal fee, like almost nothing.
Really?
Yeah, you get them made any way you want, any length you want, any grouping you want. Yeah, because I have Michael's bulbs that I made like 3 years ago before a lot of these offerings came out, where you all these like cosmic ribbon, whatever they call them, cosmic bulbs, or these all the different C9s type bulbs. So I have Michael's bulbs that are 3-inch ornaments, tree ornaments that I actually sanded down to make frosted, and then I put 3 or 4 pixels in each one, so they're on 8-inch centers. So I wanted 3 pixels together. Then I wanted to go over 10 inches, and I put 3 pixels together, and he made them exactly to my dimensions. They're perfect.
Wow.
I'll show you what Ray built for me, and I don't think he charged any more. This was probably in the close to 30 cents, but these pixicles, the 6, 9, 12, and they're drops, and these are 2812s, and they're individually controlled. Even though it has an end, the signal goes back up to the next wire. And he did it kind of clever, where every section is just a section. So where I had some bad one, I just unscrewed it and used.
How much were those per section, Steve?
There were 6, 9, 12. I ordered 4 sets of 108, and it was about, I think, 30 cents a pixel, about $30 each.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Under 200 shipping. I mean, and they're. I could show you my screen and how I modeled them out. I had to do it manually, but.
What did he charge you for shipping?
What's that?
What did he charge you for shipping?
That plus, what did I have in there? That and a bunch of power supplies was probably $60.
Yeah, that's about what it runs for me, about $60.
Okay, so so in reality, he's giving you the deal there, but he's jacking up the price on the shipping.
I would say most I
price.
don't think he's jacking the price up on shipping. That's some heavy stuff coming from China.
So I know most of the pixels I've gotten from China, they throw in free shipping. So I'm going at like 35 cents a piece with free shipping. So you try to offset the $60. All of a sudden, you add that per pixel, and then it's brought it up anyhow.
I will say every order I've got from Ray, though, as well, I get the DHL.
Yeah, I agree.
The thing of the mail, you got to pay customs on it because he doesn't pay enough.
Yeah, I've never ordered from him, so I guess I don't know.
It's not too bad. There's nobody stateside. You can get them from somebody stateside that does it. If you need standard, like a 3-inch spacing, 100 pixels string or 50, everybody sells those. But to get something customized like this for no extra fee, Ray's the way to go.
Yeah,
I mean, think how long it would take you to solder all those groups together by hand. I mean, that's
Really.
If you're going to order from Ray, though, do it in March or April, because the closer you get to October, that's when all of their holidays start, and that
might have been true in years past, but I got a hold of him the other day, and I placed an order, and he quoted me. I ordered it. I was going to order it on Friday. He quoted me it would be shipped out the next Friday. So it's like, and that was just last week.
Oh wow, awesome. Maybe he's called up, and got some back stock maybe.
If you don't need it customized and he has it in stock, it goes out I think he only ships 1 day a week. But if you need custom, I waited like 2 months for this. And every time I asked him, he said, "Oh, it's going out next week.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about the DHL and that thing. I was on the line with the DHL representative a couple of weeks ago, and she said that there's something in the stateside rules I'm going to look into it. I'll pass it on when I find it, but we might be able to get a big break on the extra monies, the taxes and stuff coming into the states because of what we do.
Like
Yeah,
an
I know there's
exemption?
certain classifications, and some classifications, for instance, iPads have no duties or customs at all.
I've never had to pay well, maybe it's in the DHL cost, but I've never had to pay any extra fees with Ray. It's always a DHL shipping, and that's the end of it.
Well, I've always received a nice little notice from DHL saying that there's a tax on it, a customs duty. And
I've never gotten one.
Neither have I. Not from DHL, but I have from FedEx.
I got them from both, and if I've spent, like, say, a $1,200 order from Ray, he'll put on the manifest that it's Christmas lights, $300 value. So you're paying less than probably what it should, and maybe closer to his cost. I'm not going to question it. I just pay the 17 or 20 bucks they asked for it and go on.
It's not going to hurt my feelings if the government doesn't get to jack up prices on me. So.
Well, I've gone through and bought like 150 lights, and it was shipped. They put a value of $10 on it, and didn't have to pay anything.
Well, for a long time, Ray was like the guy to go to, and for the most part, he still is. There's another guy that people have been using, but I mean, I'm going to order some more pixels next year for some more projects, and I mean, I'm going to order my P10 panels and stuff from him. I mean, I don't have a problem with him at all.
Yeah, I ordered all my P10s from him. One thing about Ray is I think he's really responsive because he doesn't want to tarnish his reputation. I have yet to hear one story of anybody not getting satisfied either by new product or a refund or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard of one, and that's over like 4 years that I've been kind of paying attention. There hasn't been one.
Well, yeah.
Yes, he's made everything right for me, we'll say. I haven't been clean net transactions, but he'd straighten it out every time.
I think the only really debacle that bit him was the Technicolor thing, and that was partially not his fault.
Yeah, but I've also heard stories of other vendors with the Technicolor not making people whole, whereas I've never heard of a story of Ray not making anybody whole on those Technicolors.
There's one person in this group right now that happened to. He got the rebranded Technicolors and no replacements. And I bought mine straight from Ray and got replacements.
We don't want to hash all that up again.
No, we don't need to hash all that up. But I mean, I'm just saying,
I hear you.
He's you're buying direct from him, and there's some cost savings and some benefit to that.
Well, and then it's just I think he's really responsive. I think he really cares about his reputation, and I can honestly say he doesn't have a 3-year warranty or a 2-year warranty or whatever it is, but yet you don't need a warranty if someone's going to make something right.
Right.
You only need to push warranties when and even then, if they're not upheld, then what is a warranty?
Yeah. So
and,
like I said, I've got some 2801s were the first pixels I bought from him, and they outline my windows and garage. I mean, I use them every year.
You said 2821s?
2801s.
Okay. I was reading something in the forums about 2821s. I thought at first they mean 2812s, but it was some type of something new to me. If any of you heard of that?
I haven't heard of 2821s.
Yeah,
I do believe that was a typo, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had to.
No, I think they have 2821s. It's like a DMX type protocol that actually has the ability to be addressed or something like that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were real similar to the GE lights, where you could individually address them, so they wouldn't have to be in necessarily in a string where the first one gets sent a signal, and then the second one, third one, fourth one. This one, you could just send a signal saying addressing one pixel and turn it on or off or whatever.
And I think it does that type of thing, but it's done with like a RS485 DMX type signal.
It's if one goes out, the rest of the line doesn't.
Right.
I stand corrected. World Semi has it on their website at WS2821. Parallel single wire, 3 channels, and it will pass the data even if that cell is bad.
Yeah,
that's the new one. Yeah, that came out a couple months ago. I got it confused with the DMX one.
Yeah, Ray came out with those not too long ago. He sent me a link to them, but the good like was said, the good thing about them is if one goes out, they don't all go out. It's just that pixel.
And that's a plus.
Yeah, I heard if 2 go out in a row, though, then it doesn't work. But I think 1, I think you're good.
Because I have had one go where you're having to go and screw around with it because it's like, it just happened to be in the worst place it could possibly be, right in the middle, and half your show just goes out. And
Well, the problem is when one goes out, you always have to cut that one and the one before it because you're not really sure which one it is.
And I always think that I know which one it is, and I'm less than 50% right.
Yeah. Save yourself a lot of time. Just cut out the one before it.
Yeah, and I did that the one time, and it turned out to be the one after it. So it's like, you're probably right. Just cut the 2 out and be done with it.
Get a chance.
It's only 70 cents, right?
Probably $1.50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a chance. Check out the World Semis site on that WS2821. It's got some interesting thoughts in here. It is DMX 512, and I'm kind of curious if one drops out. I wonder if it passes the whole signal down because they say it's parallel. It's not a continuous. Grab the one and send it to another. Would be interesting to get a set of them just to see.
Just to test them out. The way I understood it was you send a pulse through, and it goes into some sort of programming mode, and it addresses itself, and it holds that number unless you send another pulse through to reprogram them.
That's what I thought.
Now, is that something like GECEs?
Something like, I think something works similar to that. Yeah, the way when you apply, but GECEs do it every single time you power them on. These do not. They keep their channel. From what I understand.
How do they get programmed then?
You program them. There's a pulse. There's some signal you send to put them in programming mode. This is how I've heard it. You put them in programming mode. You send a signal through. They address themselves and they hold that number until you. And for forever until you send that signal back through.
Yeah, but the data is a DMX type of data, so it's expecting, I think, some type of differential, which, I guess if you're using some of those long-range differential controllers, that'd be fine, but your average controller isn't, outputting, 12. I mean, at that point, you'd almost need like a 16-port bridge.
Yeah. I want to say,
you go long distance on the data, that's for sure.
I want to say Seasonal Entertainment had something similar they were showing. Where
that was using that chip.
Yeah.
But there's another chip out that uses like a 2811 protocol that has where if you lose a pixel, it keeps going. And I'll pull up they have it on the Aussie Christmas. I put up a data sheet for that one. Let me pull it up. It's in their protocol. This came out just a couple months ago.
Yeah, I'll buy those pixels.
It's a 2811 type.
I think it's a 2812. That's one has instead of a data in, data out on each pixel, it's a common data line that goes across from end to end. Each of them tap into that.
That's what I was talking about, was then the parallel. Instead of the normal eat and pass type thing that the SPI does, this is parallel. Each one has to program to know what they're doing. I was just wondering what would happen if one went out in the middle.
Well, I'll post the diagram up, but I remember something different than that, but it's similar, but I'll post a diagram. You can look at it. I'll pull it up right now. I don't think it's in parallel. They're not all in parallel. That's for sure. They're definitely a serial protocol. Otherwise, you have a bunch of wires, right, going to each pixel. I don't think that there's a fourth wire. I think it's still a 3-wire thing. But it is in the die. It can detect if there's a failure and pass the data through it. And it not only does it have to pass it through it, but it has to consume those 3 channels that go to it.
Exactly what I was going to ask. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that because definitely that's I'd switch to that in a heartbeat, especially on difficult to get places.
I was thinking of something like Matrix. That would be perfect because if you drop a pixel, it would be continuing Matrix up. All that you got is a dead spot.
I just posted a.
Oh, the 2812B.
Yeah, I see that.
Now, the 2812B, that's all in one where the chip's included in the actual pixel. They're 5-volt like 5050 nodes that have the chip built into it, and those work like every other pixel that we've been using, except for there's no chips on the actual strip. They're basically built into and they're only 5 volts, but they make a 12-volt version that have a 12-volt to 5-volt voltage converter on every half meter or so. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here.
No, I use those on my arches, and they're 5 volts, and I run 30 per meter, and there is no chips. There is no, there's a capacitor next to each one of them, but there is nothing else. There is no WS2811 chip or anything.
It's built right into the 5050 node.
Yep.
The ones that do have the regulators are the 12-volt version, because there are a 5-volt 5050 node chip combination. They don't make a 12-volt version, so they have to put the regulator on every half meter to get it down to 5 volts, so those lights will actually work.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that chip in the 2812B is sitting directly below the LEDs themselves.
And those 2812Bs, they are polarity protected also.
Yeah, I see that on the data sheet.
I have tested that.
Yeah, probably all of us have.
I have tested that. And I did not fry any.
So that's kind of good to know for those long nights when you're just putting this stuff together.
Yeah, that's why before I don't trust myself. Before I hook up something, I always get my multimeter out and check for continuity every single time.
I've only made that mistake once, and I'm very happy that everything survived. And the weird part of it was I had it on 100-foot length of wire, and I'm like, okay, it should be showing, and there's nothing. And I'm like, well, I know everything's fine. And I just picked up the wire, and the wire was starting to get warm. And I'm like, okay, we're going to disconnect this real quick and recheck our wiring. And sure shit, it's like, it was off. And I was like, oops. And I changed around, worked fine. The LEDs were fine. The wire, if I wouldn't have caught it right away, I think I would have lost 100 foot of my speaker wire, but it would have turned into a toaster. But I was really surprised because I'm running for that particular time, I was running a 60 amp 5-volt power supply from Holiday Coro, and I put a 20 amp fuse on that, figuring in case I accidentally shorted it out, I just want the fuse to go, because I figured 16 gauge wire would be able to handle that, and it did not blow the 20 amp fuse. I was real surprised. So by reversing the polarity on those chips, and that was running with 3 meters, so we're talking 90 LEDs. I didn't check to see how much power I was pulling, but it was enough to warm up that wire, so it was less than 20 amps though. So rule of thumb, it's good to use the modern technology instead of getting the cheapest stuff you can sometimes. So it worries me about those the 2811s. If you screw it up, and it's like they're going to be fried.
Well, at least one or two of them will be.
We open the Friday before Thanksgiving with the park show, so I don't think I'll be putting them in this year, but it's a good thing to have in my mind for next year.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of. I'm gonna do some more research on the new pixels, because I'm being able to skip over a bad pixel and makes things a whole lot simpler. You get to make a decision if it's worth going up to repair it or not.
Kind of like when the LCD TVs came out, where you had a bad pixel. Well, do you want to live with it or not?
Yeah.
I would like that too, but I guess I'd like to see exactly how do you reprogram the whole thing if you want to change it. Like you patch out, you cut that one out, and you put a new one in there. How the hell do you program that be replacement?
I think it's the most people we've ever had in here, 13 people.
Gentlemen, I'm going to make it one less here. I apologize, but I got a very early call in the morning. So thank you all for the information you've been passing on. Have a good night.
All right, we'll see you. Hope you come back.
And having a hard time finding the protocol on the Aussie Christmas. I know that there's a big list of them on there. I just can't find it because I put one in there.
David, I know it's not your imagination. I saw it too.
Yeah, they have a list of all the data sheets. You know, if I just search Google for 2811 protocol, I'll probably go right to that page. It's the last one on the list. I'm wanting to think it's like a. I can't. You know what? I have. You know what? I supported in my controller. I forgot.
What's the protocol?
It's the last one. Let me pull up the controller I have in my front yard.
Is it the 2821?
No, it has a different number type than that. Let me just pull it up here. It is and the survey says
68 something.
it's the
TLS?
LX 1203.
Everybody's typing.
Oh, it's an OS crystal sliding. The topic is new pixels from Ray. And that gives you a link to them.
Huh. Let me look. Christmas lighting. Type in new pixels from Ray.
Here, I'll just paste it to the group here.
Thanks, because I still couldn't find it even with the number. I'm sorry. My Google skills are lacking tonight.
There we go. Okay, so they're 12 millimeter nodes.
About 40 cents a piece. Can you post that Aussie Christmas? Because I think we have a link to the data sheet. Because I got the data sheet from Ray that night that post went up, and I posted it up on the Aussie Christmas. There might be a link in that thread.
So
There is. Here it's coming. Stand by for my Control V.
So it's a 3-wire like 2811 type, data voltage ground.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's very similar.
There it is at the bottom of that link I just posted.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It blended in with the other one.
I wonder if there'll be a 12-volt version coming out. I'm sure there will be.
I'm wanting to think that I thought I saw a 12-volt. I'd search the Ray side. There might be a 12-volt one already.
Let's see. I'm going to look real quick.
Hey, there it is. It's under Wiki Data Sheets. Okay. Yeah, the 1203. Yeah, I sent that over to Alan.
Page 2 of the data sheet shows it at 12 volts.
Huh.
Yeah, it shows probably a 12 volt and a 5 volt circuit. So it obviously it could run at 12 volts. It just depends on who makes the strip or the node or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But if you go to the protocol, it's very similar. It's identical to the 2811 or the 18XX protocol.
So are you right? Does the Falcon support these?
Yeah, the Falcon supports it. I had to run them slightly a little quicker than the 2811 to get rid of a little bit of noise or something. They run a little slightly quicker than the 2811.
Just send them an email and see if they're.
If you read the data sheet, it says. Well, if you read, I think Ray's little description. Yeah, if one chip damage will not affect global lamp display, and then of course it's in Chinese, potent technology. So that's the name. I think the LX 1203 has a one chip damage will not affect the global lamp display patent technology is what they probably wanted to say, which has system signal connection features. Yeah.
Well, I like that.
Yeah, they're still in their infancy, you know.
Well, that means it's not just passing the signal on.
No, I think internally in the chip, it must not only does it, because in order for the other ones to work properly without being skewed by 1 pixel, it has to somehow get rid of those 3 bytes on the line. Otherwise, the next pixel is going to use them. So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I don't know
Because if
how
it
it does.
actually fries, you would think that you'd still lose it.
Well, there must be something that when it does fry or whatever that I don't know. I guess they got potent technology.
It's if it dies when it's off, it would be messed up. Well, if it's running, every pixel has its ID. The ID won't change.
Right.
There is no ID in the 2811 protocol. It's just when it takes the first 3 bytes it receives and passes the rest down the wire. So there's no ID. It's what's positioning. So if you send 30 bytes down to 10 pixels, the first pixel is going to take 3 of them off, and it's only going to transmit 27 bytes. The next one's going to take 3 and then only transmit 24. And at the end, you're only left with 3, so that the guy doesn't.
I have to wonder if the thing fries. If they do go, it skews everything by 1. Everything.
Well, they said it does not affect.
Well, look at the data sheet. It doesn't have a data in and data out. It looks like a common data wire, so it's not passing in and out.
I see data in and data out.
Yeah, I've got to get back there.
Yeah, it comes in on pin 6 and leaves on pin 5.
Someone's vibrating.
Does the fact that it just says one bad node does not affect the other?
That's the key. That's the key word, I think, is that if you had 2 in a row, it probably would. In fact, I think I read somewhere where it says that 2 in a row ain't gonna work.
But you could have 2 or 3 on the line as long as they weren't sequential.
Page 6 goes over that. It says, system cannot appear at the same time 2 consecutive chip damage.
All right, so 2 consecutive. Okay.
And
Which you
that's
probably
that
won't
Chinese
have.
lingo there.
Yeah, which you probably are not going to have 2 consecutive unless you got a cascade failure for whatever reason. Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, all right. It could be the newest thing, and since it is the 2811 protocol, there's really not much change to. I think a lot of the controllers allow you to change the timing, so they'd probably be supported right out the gate with a little, with tweaking either the timing in the interface or a small firmware change to make it work.
Does the Falcon allow you to change the timing, or do you set it based on the number of pixels?
Well, it has nothing to do with the number of pixels. I set it based on the chip type.
Okay, gotcha. Well, like
a lot of times, the reason the number of pixels came into play is because the processor didn't have enough. It was multiplexing, so it didn't have enough time. Whereas with the FPGA, you're constantly outputting it 40 times a second every second.
Like my J1 sys, the ECGP2, you have to enter the speed.
Well, again, a lot of that, the J1 sys, they use the same chip. He uses the same chip that I use in my F16 V1, and it's a nice chip and it works really fast. But you're multiplexing the multiple ports per. I think he uses SPI pins to drive the signal, and he connects 3 ports or 4 ports to every SPI. So you got to time multiplex. So if you're driving a lot of pixels, you got to slow down the transmission rate.
Now, can't you run these with 2 different speeds? I remember reading something 400 versus 800.
Well, we always run everything at 800. Ray Wu doesn't even sell the 400. To even put it in 400 mode, you actually have to tie a pin on the chip low or high. So the manufacturer of the strip or the pixels, they're actually tying that pin high or low. And all of the ones that Ray sells, and I think all the one that Holiday Coro and DIY DIY LED Express, they all sell the high speed 800 kilobit per second one. So.
At what point would you notice? So, for instance, if you're running your 700 or whatever your maximum number of pixels are, do you notice a delay between them?
Well, if you look at the 2811 running at 800 kilobits, you can send 680 pixels of data at that rate before you'd have to like send the next frame, and that's at 40 times per second. So if you're outputting at a 25 millisecond refresh rate, you can output about 680 pixels of data, or pixels data, before the next 25 milliseconds is up, and you got to basically send the next frame. So that's the maximum that you could send at 25 milliseconds. Now you could send more if you slowed down if you weren't sending it at 40 times a second. I can't imagine anybody having more than 680 pixels per string though. I mean, that's some heavy power injection. So
right.
On the F16 V2, it's got a dedicated process within the FPGA that outputs to each port, so you don't see any delay. It's outputting 680 40 times a second. So at the most, whenever it tries to send out the data, the data that doesn't get latched in either till there's a pause, and that propagates. So you might see up to 1/40th of a second delay or propagation between the first pixel getting its data and the last pixel, 680th pixel, getting its data. And 1/40th of a second is smaller than what the human eye can even comprehend. In fact, they do motion pictures at 24 frames per second, and that looks fluid to the human eye. So,
so
you'll never see a delay, I don't think.
Just out of curiosity, so we're sending this over what is it, 1.31 to the.
Yeah, you see, the controller gets an internet protocol, which is E131, and then it converts it to kind of a pulse width modulated or serial peripheral type signal that goes to the pixels. So there's kind of two protocols happening. One that's over the network to get the data to the controller from the Pi or from the Vixen 3 or whatever, and then after that, then there's an actual pulse width modulation for 2811 type signal that's happening to run the pixels themselves.
So for instance, when you're getting this from the piece of software, whether it's Xlights or Vixen or whatever, so what does it send, like a whole frame, or so that it's all gets synced up at the controller level? I don't quite understand that.
Well, it sends out universes at a time, usually in 500. A lot of people use 510 bytes per universe, so
right.
It sends out 510 bytes embedded into a UDP or user datagram packet, and the controller receives that packet and stores it into memory, and then it receives a bunch of those packets in a row, typically, usually 32, 64, whatever you set your output to on your sequencer. So the controller constantly receives it, throws it into a buffer, and then, depending on what your scheme is, there's an output side of the controller that grabs that data and then outputs it using this other peripheral, this pulse width modulation type protocol to the strings themselves. So
now, does it matter? So first, obviously, a lot of
now what? Just to stop you there, and just to kind of put on a little end tag on what I just said. The next revision of E131 is called E133, and Andrew, Andrew, he's on the Aussie Christmas site, works for Stellascapes. And
I never got on that site. I've tried to sign up, and it never gave me a password.
Yeah.
There's no PO about that, but it's like I live with it.
Well, he used to be known as Mr. Packethead. He's probably, I consider him one of the pioneers into all this, because he had published the first Megatree in 2009, first pixel Megatree.
Okay.
And he is on the board of the E133, and that's going to have a sync packet that gets sent that will say, because right now the way it works is that each 510 bytes that come over in a universe is independent from each other, and there's no way to say, okay, I want you to latch that data. There's no way to tell a controller, okay, I want that. There's no way to create a frame to say all these E131 universes go together, and now at this point I want you to latch that into the output and send it out the output. So that's why a lot of controllers have made it to where you should only, put in 510 channels, so you don't orphan that last pixel and have some of its data in the next universe. Because theoretically, the output side could start to output that data right in the middle between the reception of universe A and universe B, and that last pixel could have 2 bytes that might not be married together with its remaining byte that's in the next universe. But this new protocol, E133, is have a sync pulse where you can basically go, don't do anything with the data, the controller, don't do anything with the data till you get that sync pulse, then go ahead and send everything out your output side. So that's coming down the pike. So there will be some frame synchronization on the next version of E133.
Okay.
So it's like a checksum, like a CRC.
No, it's not a checksum. It's just a special packet that basically has a special. I haven't reviewed it yet, although I've been asked to review it by him. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I'm thinking it's just at the end of the. There's going to be a sync packet that gets sent, probably another E131 type packet, and it's going to have a certain byte set that says this. Okay, now go ahead and we're done sending all the universes. Go ahead and send it out, and that's what the E133 group has been working on, is coming up with a better way to keep all the data in a frame and not have it split apart. Because right now the output could receive, let's say the input side receives 16 universes, and then the output is running asynchronously, kind of in its own clock domain. It could actually start to send out right then before it gets the other 32. So you could theoretically have half of your megatree for half a frame be a different color than you want it, but because the frame is only 1/40th of a second, your eye won't pick it up anyway, because it happens it's going to all change to the right color a 40th of a second later. Well, this kind of addresses that and makes it to where nothing gets sent out by the controller until it gets this sync packet, and then it knows that it has everything and it sends it all out, in together.
So in reality, even though your controller, you can do your 4 universes per output, it really wouldn't have an impact because it still would have been by universe, right?
The fact that you can do 4 universes per port, and then there's 16 ports, well, that's 64 universes. The first hurdle a controller has to get over is, can you receive 64 universes and store it?
Right.
And a lot of controllers can't, because they will soon, or they are working on it. I know the J1sys used to only receive 12, now it receives 24, so he did some optimization to make that controller do more. So for the first battle is being able to receive it, having a microcontroller quick enough to receive it, and then the second battle is, do you have enough memory to store it? And then if you can store it, then you're good, I think, as far as, well, then can you send out that much data? And most of them can send out 680 pixels per string. But I think their problem is the speed of reception and storing is probably the most of the.
David, and maybe you can answer this, because I'm not a guru on that at all. Is this all this problem coming because we started from the DMX side and we're limited to this 512 in this whole section?
Well, I think the controllers, Jim St. John's first controller, which is a 680, which is, in my opinion, the grandfather, or it's the first controller that was for the DIY, he wanted to stay within a protocol that's easy to use, and that was readily available, and so he used E131 because it's one of the most popular lighting protocols, and E131 is a throwback from DMX, which was DMX 512, where you can have up to 512 channels. With a UDP packet, UDP packets themselves have a certain, you don't want to have a big old huge UDP packet size, so the E131 people defined it as being a max of 512 bytes. I think a lot of that was because back in the day, 512 bytes was a lot of data for a
big
picture or whatever. Yeah, so we just stayed within that confines. I mean, Jim leading the way on that, and I think the majority of controllers, since believe it, the bottom line is everybody that made a controller after the 680 had, the 680 was so popular that if you want to make a controller that people are going to use, you pretty much better follow the 680, 681, 682.
Right.
That's what everybody's using and used to using. So, he set the standard, I think, for what a pixel controller is, and everybody has to follow. Everybody's following suit just to because that's where the market's at.
Right.
And it's a good design. So,
Yeah.
I don't think the problem is in how much payload each packet. There's very little overhead in the UDP packet. I think there's only 126 bytes of header information. So, and remember, internet protocol is very fast. I mean, this is running at 100 megabits. So, you could send the slowdown is not your network sending the actual packets. You could send 200 universes across with your computer, no problem, and have a room probably for another 200. If you had a nice, computer or decent computer, that's not the problem. It's just, can the controllers are they're microcontrollers. They only have so much resources. Some controllers only have so many sockets they can open up to actually receive an E131 universe. I know that's the limitation on some, is that, the little module that they use only allows them to open up, 8 sockets. So they can, and each multicast socket each multicast port or address is a socket. So that's why you get into the limitations on some of the universe. Other controllers might not have enough memory to store it, and then others don't have enough processing power to receive it. Because especially with multicast, if you throw, let's say you got 10 controllers and each controller only receives 10 universes of data. With multicast, all 10 are going to receive all 100, and so you're sending out 100 universes of multicast. Even though one controller is only using 10, they all need to basically receive all 100 and then kind of weed through them and go, is this for me? Is this for me? Is this for me?
Yeah, that seems to be a big issue right now with all these wireless devices right now. I think there's a big debate on multicast, unicast. It seems to be.
They both have their advantages. Multicast is great for addressing. You just send it all out, and if you have controllers that could receive 100 universes, you're not going to have a problem. If you have any controllers that can only receive a little bit of data, like these the pixel sticks or whatever, you probably want to stick with unicast and then direct the data to them. Or if you're going to do multicast, you could create VLANs, with a nice managed switch, and then you could just direct the multicast away from those VLANs that have those. So there's a bunch of networking tricks with good switches and stuff that you can do. Inexpensive switches you can do to keep the multicast away from those devices. But multicast is better.
Yeah. That's way past my pay grade.
Well, you said multicast is better, David?
If you have controllers that can handle it, then multicast is way easier, right? Because you just send out the data and let the controllers figure out if it's for them. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about IP addresses. You don't have to. But if you don't have controllers or if you don't have the infrastructure, a managed switch that can multicast away from the controllers that will have a problem with it, then it's not better. So there's certain reasons why it's better, and in a professional environment, it's always better because you have devices that actually subscribe to the multicast. So your router actually doesn't even send the data to the device unless it subscribes. For instance, the Pi is a good example of that. It actually does the subscription, whereas even my controller doesn't do it yet. Real multicast won't. A real multicast switch and control or managed switch with a real multicast controller, the multicast data will not reach it unless the actual device comes online, contacts the switch, says, hey, I'm interested in receiving this multicast universe. There's a handshake that goes back and forth, and then the switch will route the data when it comes into that device. It will not even get the data unless all that happens.
Dave, though, but for the people running a Linksys switch router at home that doesn't have that advanced switch, the switch is going to send it to all ports that have something in there. Whether you need it or not, your iPhone or anything else, your tablet's going to get that data and drop it, right?
Yeah, that's the case. I mean, you're bringing up a very good case. Let's say the average user that has certain controllers that we're using in this hobby that only can receive 12 universes. They probably or they could receive 32 or 64 or whatever. If they have a problem with receiving multicast, a lot of universes, then you probably don't want to run multicast. But multicast in a good implementation with a cheap $100 switch, if you set it up, again, setting it up could be a nightmare for some, but if you're network savvy or kind of got a pretty good sense of networking, you can log in and put in a name for a VLAN and say, this VLAN's only for these 4 ports on my $100 switch. Then I would say, multicast is the way to go. I don't know. There are arguments. It just has to do with the use case. For your average user that has a bunch of universes and your controllers can't handle it, yeah, unicast is going to save you a bunch of headaches. But now let's look at the unicast pitfalls. If you're unicast with X-Lights or you're unicast with the Pi, if any of those unicast controllers drop out, then you have a bunch of ARP debacle happening, right? So,
depending on your switch. Because unicast, I tell people, is like you send your Christmas cards out. You write one address, one stamp, you send it. Multicast is sending 100 Christmas cards to 100 people, and you tell them, take your card and throw the other 99 away.
Yeah, but let's look at multicast though. Let's say you had 10 controllers, each received 10 universes. No matter what you do, whether it's unicast or multicast, there's 10 universes of data 100 universes of data that needs to be sent out, right? It's just a matter of are you directing 10 sets of 10 to individual controllers with unicast, or are you just outputting all 100 on the multicast? The advantage is multicast isn't looking to resolve MAC address, or the problem that the Pi has when one falls off, which it could. I'm not saying it would. In fact, I run my shows for the last 2 years and it hasn't. But let's say one of your E682s basically, or your F16V2 dies, and now it's not on the network anymore. So what happens is the Pi, let's say the Pi is on the network. When the Pi goes to send the universe data, the unicast data to the F16V2, since it's locally can deliver the packet to the 682, it doesn't use IP addresses anymore. What it does is it needs to resolve that IP address to a MAC address, and that MAC address gets embedded into the actual layer of the IP layer, it's more of a hardware layer, I think. And then the MAC address is how the F16 knows it's for it. It compares its MAC address with the MAC address that's in the packet, and then it will receive it. Well, what happens is the Pi sends out an ARP request that says, hey, what's the MAC address for this IP address? If that device is not online, or if the MAC address hasn't been cached by the Pi or some switch or router, there's not going to be a response. So the Pi sits there and it waits for this response to come back. Well, the response never comes back because is dead. Well, that delay, that 250 milliseconds, just cost you 5, 6, 7 E131 packets to everything else. So that's why when people say, hey, I didn't have all my controllers connected to my thing and I was doing some testing from the Pi and it was running super slow and laggy and my lights were not doing what I wanted it to do, or I've even had this happen with X-Lights, then that's the reason, is that delay is costing time, and it sits there and waits. The Pi sits there and waits for that ARP request to come back. Typically, it comes back immediately because the F16V2 or the E682 goes, hey, here's my MAC address, and immediately within microseconds, milliseconds, sends it back. But when it's not there, it doesn't. Now, there could be ways to make static tables. I'm not sure. That's kind of above my pay grade. There might be a way to make a static ARP table that never, changes. I don't know.
In Linux, you can.
Well, that would be a good thing to forward on to Captain Murdoch if he doesn't know about it already. But knowing that guy, he's probably on it already. Because that would be an improvement if it doesn't need to go out and ask and it already knows. Yeah. It would be something that you could that we could probably self-configure, even since once it finds it, we can cache it into a file. But the disadvantage would be if you ever change the IP address and now the controller is a different MAC address. You change your IP address schemes, and then it could be sending it to the wrong device.
Yeah, not to.
Sorry, guys. I know I went into the weeds with that one.
No, it's all right. But not to dumb it down, I got a question for you. Glad you're on, David. That for the Zeus 16, using your SCC for version 4, you have to pull the chips out and put them in to set them up to use your software.
Yeah, the Zeus never had an in-circuit programming ability. There's 10 chips, or there's 16 chips on there, right? So
yeah,
each one would have to have an ISP or some type of switching, thing to switch it. And if I were to design the board like that, I probably wouldn't have did it either. I mean, there'd be a lot of little dip switches to direct the pins to it and everything. So
but
yeah, you have to pull them out. Jim Nealon did a post where he shows you how you can modify an SSC4 to do that.
Okay.
Or he also has a picture on how you can modify one of the J1 sys headers. You can buy those little board, little dip switch header boards that plug into the ISCP or ICSP, and that's probably the easiest way because there's already a bunch of places to put the jumper wires and stuff.
I just wasn't sure how you did it over the standard version 4. You do the programming without having to take the chips out, right? Or it can be
once you upload the firmware, right? Once you uploaded the firmware and the firmware is running, I actually have a different protocol. That's the whole different firmware that I have than what the DLA firmware was. So it actually has a PixelNet scheme where it's looking for certain programming characters to come in, and when it satisfies that pattern, it knows that it's a programming packet, and then it can take the data that I embed in the programming packet to reconfigure itself on the fly. But you're not programming firmware; you're actually just programming the settings in the firmware.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I get it. Sure. Awesome. I'll be doing that next.
It works pretty good. I don't know about the version 4s, but I have a bunch of version 1, 2, 3s that have been updated, or actually 1, 2s. I don't think there ever was a version 3, but there was a version 1 and 2 that you could update the version 3.
Yeah, that's I got a test one here on the board, right? That's the one with the wire you have to jumper across the back.
Yeah. And I found that the best way to do that was using Corey, the inventor of the micro amp and the inventor of the micro SSC, and the other one, the what's it called, the something burst or boost or. He's a guy that did the mod. It's called the
Afterburner.
The Afterburner.
Afterburner, right? That's it.
Yeah, and that is by far superior to the mod that DLA recommends, just due to the fact that you don't cut any traces. It's all without cutting any traces at all.
Yeah.
Uses the same pins, and they actually, both firmwares work identically with the firmware that I wrote. It's just his version didn't have any cut traces. And it was the most easiest, I think.
It wasn't too bad to do. But.
No. The Afterburner. Well, we got some DLA people here, huh? Did you guys get my thing on the forum that said "come over, come down"?
Well, I'm on yours as well there. So I started it. We talked about.
But there was another gentleman. And who was that?
Sorry, that was Steve. I think Steve is the one who was speaking up.
Not Dron. I don't think he's a PixelNet guy. I know Keith is.
No, I'm Steve. I don't do PixelNet.
Yeah.
That's where I started, really, was PixelNet.
There was another person on here that I can't. Was it John? I know John's here.
John?
I use PixelNet.
Yeah.
Maybe Al. Al left.
I know John uses PixelNet. Was that you talking about the Afterburner, John?
I threw the name out
Okay, I didn't recognize your voice. I was just trying to see who else was a DLA guy here.
I haven't been. I still go over there and read around, but
There's been no activity really for a while, so.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to get up to date.
No.
Yeah. Good stuff came out of that site, and still, I'm sure there will be. But yeah.
Well, when I first started looking for DMX dongles, that was the site I was at first. That was actually where I found X-Lights, where when X-Lights first came out, and it was real in its infancy. That's where it was posted up at.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff works. It's pretty rock solid, right? It works as advertised, I guess. He's done a fairly good job.
Well, again, for long distance, I don't think there's a better system than the PixelNet system right now for the cost for going long distances. But it's not mainstream. It doesn't seem to.
No, the worst thing is the fuses on the hub.
What hub is that?
What's that?
What hub you got there?
Yeah, who would ever blow a fuse?
That's a smart string hub.
Is it?
Yeah, it's written a little backwards there, but that's a smart string hub, but it's got the little fuses in here, right? And
The little green fuses that you
yeah,
have.
a little green, and it's a pain in the ass. Yeah. If you blow one of those, it's not fun.
Well, you know what you do? I've blown a lot of them in the past. You know what you do is you don't cut the old one out. You leave the old one in, and then you turn the board over, and you just basically solder across the 2 pins on the back, and you're done. Don't try to dig it out. You'll start ruining traces.
No, for sure. I have another one that I put the automotive style fuse on the back on leads, so they're sticking out. But anyway, it's done the job, I guess.
Yeah, if you try to dig down in there and cut it out, then yeah, you could run into. Those are our pain to get to if you're down there trying to get it out with tweezers or whatever.
You drinking that Canadian water again, Rick?
Oh no, that's your Canadian water. It's a work day. I got to drink your stuff.
Doesn't Molson own Coors now?
Well, yeah. Here it's Coors actually I think bought Molson's, but this Canadian laws are a little funny. I guess is it. It's actually like if you bought Budweiser up here. It's not your Budweiser. It's made by our company, Labatt's, a Canadian company, under license of Budweiser. So it's not watered down like yours. We can still drink it up here. Yeah. Anyway.
Anybody else got anything?
I wanted to mention, I bought some of the black WS2811s from Ben, a guy named Ben, who came on a couple of different forums. And I've been putting them into the Boscoyo Matrix, the big flat panels with the holes every inch apart. And I just wanted to comment that they're probably the best made bullet pixels I have ever encountered as far as quality.
Where'd they come from again?
Well, I got them from AliExpress. Let's see.
Post up a link.
Okay. I'll find it here and post a link. But he makes them in black, and I know that scares a lot of people because there's no color code, so you have to be really careful. You can't work on it in the dark for sure. But since it's just 3-wire, though there's 1 wire with white writing on it, and it's the ground. the center conductor is data, so that makes the other one 12 volts. So it's not too hard. If you have a little bit of light, you can keep it straight. The biggest problem is knowing which end is input and which end is output. So you make sure you mark that with a tie wrap or something initially, because it doesn't work backwards.
And John, you're saying they're bullets?
Yeah, they're the 12 millimeter bullets.
So can you see into the bullet though?
Not a bit.
No. So it's just the straw hat that's sticking out there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is black. All the wires are black. The casing is black, and the sealant that they used inside is much harder than the sealant that Ray uses.
And I don't know how long you've had them, but have you found that are they UV resistant?
No, I wouldn't know that until next season.
Okay.
I'll find a link here in just a second. It's from Scott LED on Alibaba, but let me find the exact reference.
Hey, quick question for you guys. When does Wei Wu run his sales?
He doesn't run any real sales. Not from my experience.
I think he's got a couple of discounts once in a while of other.
Trying to get rid of things, yeah. But the best time to buy from him, I mean, to be honest with you, is March, April. That way just like David said, his response time's been a little quicker. There was a while there where I think that he was getting inundated with just, for a while there, it was only a small portion of us that were getting into pixels, and now that a lot of us has gotten into it, the late comers are starting to get into it, and I think that put him behind is what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a link for the 50 count. They're just 25 cents a piece.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, those are
I've been
wild looking.
seriously amazed by the quality.
So is that a hard plastic case around it, or is that like a soft case?
It's semi-hard.
Okay, pliable.
It's pliable, so when I'm pushing it through those round holes in the Boscoyo panels, it makes a good solid click as it goes through, and it catches solidly between the two layers of clips that it has on there.
What's his shipping like? Shipping price.
Let me actually find my invoice here. Shipping. I ordered 1,200 pixels and some 5-volt power supplies, and my shipping was $88.
Okay, so that's not horrible.
It's not outrageous, but it certainly wasn't free.
That's actually relatively cheap, right? We're talking 16 strings.
That's a lot of weight.
No, that's 24 strings.
Well,
Wow.
I bought 1,200 count strings and then 150 count to cut apart for spares.
Still a lot of pixels.
Yeah, David, that PVC matrix that I've been carting around for so many years to various things.
I consider that my matrix.
Well, your matrix is trash now. It's been replaced.
That's good. Lighter, cheaper, less expensive.
Well, I don't know about. It definitely is more regular now. It's straighter and flatter.
Yeah, that's good. Lighter, probably too.
Probably about the same weight, though. It's close, but it'll just roll up into a cylinder.
And what's it made with?
It's that Boscoyo plastic stuff. It's a real thin ABS.
Yeah, I'm on the fence between either building a matrix with that or doing the P10 panels. The P10 panels seem to be more cost efficient.
Yeah,
Well, John's the one to ask on those.
I've got both.
Well, which one do you like the most, and which one would you, if you were going to do one?
If I was only going to do one, I would probably do a large P10 display.
Okay. Large meaning how many panels by how many panels?
Large as in at least 5 wide and maybe 5 tall.
Okay, that's not bad.
25 panels.
Okay.
I know
How
you
big
could
is that,
go.
like in inches?
Well, they're just a little over a foot. So it'd be just over about 5.5 feet wide, 2.5 feet tall. If you did 5 by 5. Figure it 13 inches.
Yeah, but the panels are $11 a piece, so he's only talking about $250 worth of
Yeah.
material.
Not a lot of money. You can't buy the pixels for that for something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the pixels are 100% waterproof.
Yeah, how are you enclosing those P10 panels? You just making a box for them and putting them on the inside?
Yeah, I made a box. I put a sheet of Lexan on the front and sealed that up. And then you put a back on and seal that, and then you just hope it doesn't rain hard. But these WS2811s, I'm convinced you could run them underwater.
Yeah, I've in the past used the square and the Pixabulb type pixels, and I'm going to test out the 12 millimeter little nodes and see how I like them. How I run my pixels, though, I mean, the Pixabulbs make more sense on the roof and stuff because they've got a flat bottom.
Right. I'm going to be using Pixabulbs on my roof for the first time this year. Again, with the Boscoyo strips to hold them in place.
Yeah. I run mine along PVC, zip tied to them.
Now, pixel bulbs are made by DIY LED Express.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great product, huh?
Oh yeah, good product.
Yeah.
When you first get them, you're like, man, that doesn't look. You don't really understand the waterproofness of it until you pull one of those little wafers out and take a look of how it's inset, and it's pretty waterproof.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I popped the bulb off and took one out. I think Steve Gase sent me 4 bulbs off of a strip, and I destructively disassembled it.
I still had 4 failures of them last year, but yeah, I don't know what that was about, but I did. Luckily it was on my Pixel tree, and it could have been a fluke thing. I only had one of them that caused a cascade failure. The rest of them were just stuck colors and stuff.
Hey, I'm gonna go a little here with you guys. I don't know if any of you are using Renard, but I've got my eye on some of those Renard ESPs, and I'm just signed up for it.
Okay, I hear you, and you're a little faint, but yeah, I use Renard. I started out on Renard. I had at one time 12, 13 Renard boxes. I write Renard Protocol for a lot of the controllers we have.
Yeah, how about anybody got any ideas on that Renard ESP board, the wireless one?
I've ordered 4 of them. I'll let you know when I get them.
Well, I did order 5, so.
It looks like an awesome idea. I'm gonna try. I've got a tree that's across the driveway from my other 2 Renard boxes, and I'm gonna plug it up and see how it works.
Yeah, I bought the one that's for the pixels, I believe, from was it Sporadic?
Yeah, I think it was Sporadic. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, after I saw you the other week, I said, "Man, I want to get one of those," and I contacted him, and I guess he had a few. And then there's another gentleman that's making a little insert that goes into the GECE like controller box.
Yeah, so I think they linked together. That's Bill Porter, right?
Yeah. Now, are they doing the Renard also? Is that the same?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Bill and Sporadic have joined forks in GitHub, right? And so it's all linked up now that it will run. I think GECs and 2011s, and Renard all together now.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but they have different form factor boards. Like the Pixel Stick one here is this shape, but they also have now one that those GE ones you can leave the box, you just take it apart, and it will fit right in, and you don't have to do any splicing or just solder on that new board. So it's pretty cool.
Sweet.
UKE Warrior is who's doing that ESP.
Yes. Right, he's doing the group buy, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And but like I said, I'm going to test them out. I'm going to put one of them to use right off the bat.
Yeah, those are nice. I bought one just to give it a shot because that could eliminate some wires, especially if you're going.
Yeah. Did you have a specific question, Neil, or are you just wanting to see if anybody
I
was
was
using them?
just seeing if anybody else had really saw them and if they were there was any interest in any of the people that were here. I was looking at them, and the first thing I thought was across the sidewalk because I've got kids running across that sidewalk, and I've got to tape down my wire. That's a pain. It really is. When I've got extra power running under the sidewalk, but I don't have data running under the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Check back next week. I might have it hooked up.
Now, don't forget the F4B. That can run 2,000 pixels wirelessly. No, I'm joking.
I think one of the things that actually interests me is that you are able to daisy chain this thing, so it's you can have more than one box on that one connection. So
Yeah.
it really is nice.
Yeah,
for Renard. Yeah, if you're doing AC stuff, that could definitely help you out with the Renard.
And if that one side works well, I'm just going to use the other one to connect to the that first box in line, and then jump over to the next box with wire.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Because I've got two boxes side by side under the tree. It just makes more sense to put it out in the yard. Up until a couple of years ago, I ran everything back to my garage, and my Renard box was really the first box that I put out in the yard. Now I wouldn't do it any other way. I don't want to run all that wire back. That's a lot of wasted SPT2.
Yeah. Some really exciting stuff coming out of that forum.
Yeah, man. I mean, every time
wireless front.
Yeah, every time you go in there, man, there's somebody's coming up with something new. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Nothing.
I got a question. If anybody knows anything about X-Lights and the strobe view, doesn't seem that my strobes actually strobe in the view, except for in certain cases. Anybody else have that problem?
You're running strobes, like an actual strobe bulb?
Yeah, but when I build it out in X-Lights as the string of strobes.
I think you have to run those just as on.
Yeah, I do run them as on, but when you set them as a strobe string, you can actually choose for it to be a strobe bulb, and it's supposed to flicker, every 3 seconds or 3 times a second.
And that's it's doing that just for the display purpose, but the output is always either on or off, on or off. But for the display, because I've done that too, Neil, and it just sort of looks more like it's flickering rather than strobing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in some cases, it just flickers once, and it just goes off, and I'm like, is that what's going to be sent to my display? I don't think so, but.
I don't know what it's actually going to look like out in the yard yet. I don't have my strobes out in the yard.
I mean, I just set them to on because it's a mixture of the YouTubes and the LED strobes. So just go on. That's all I've got.
Well, hey, I'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Bye, Jason.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave too. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. I've got to run. So, you guys have a good evening. See you next week.